Itsuki was just your average kid living a quiet life until the day the sky fell and hell broke loose on Earth. He watched in horror as nightmare creatures tore his parents apart. Left orphaned in a blood-soaked world, he made a vow to exterminate every single monster in existence. Fast forward 10 years, the moment of truth finally arrived, his chance to awaken his dormant abilities and join the ranks of the hunters. With the world's elite watching, he stepped into the spotlight and slammed his hand onto the awakening stone. But destiny threw him a massive curveball. He didn't just awaken, he unlocked Limit Breaker, a cryptic talent that baffled everyone. The kicker, his status read, level 0, fixed, permanent, impossible to level up. So how does a guy stuck at 0 take revenge on the beasts that slaughtered his family? Folks, we are just getting started. There is a lot more to unpack here, so smash that like button before we dive into this epic tale. Rewind to the nightmare that started it all. Eerie black monoliths rained from the heavens, piercing the clouds one by one. Their massive shadows swallowed the city whole, as arcs of lightning and glowing orbs danced around their descent. Barriers snapped into place instantly. A colossal beam of purple energy erupted from the city center, churning the sky into a violent vortex. Pedestrians froze in their tracks, eyes locked on the glowing tower rising before them. The barriers shattered, and disaster beasts poured in like a plague. Looming over them was a titan of darkness. Ringa, the demon of destruction. Purple energy crackled behind him as a legion of nightmares flooded the streets. Armored hulks, winged horrors, and clawed freaks charged forward while screams tore through the air. Carnage was instant. A plated beast backhanded a man, sending him flying like a ragdoll. With his last breath, he screamed, "Run," while his terrified kid reached out, crying for dad, as the mother dragged him away. Bedlam consumed the city. Beasts swarmed from every angle, nowhere was safe. Death swooped from the sky on winged beasts, and burst from the concrete beneath their feet. Infernal blue beasts bulldozed through the crowd. The streets became a graveyard of panic and bodies. One armored nightmare charged blue fire erupting from its frame. It unhinged its jaw and unleashed a primal roar, eyes glowing with malice. It shot a vortex of azure flame straight at a fleeing mother, clutching her son against her chest. Fire scorched the asphalt as the monsters closed in. Realizing the end was near, she hurled her child forward just as the flames consumed her. The tiny boy hit the ground, reaching back with trembling hands. Through the roar of the fire, her voice cracked, repeating one final command. "Run, Itsuki, run." Tears blurred his vision as he screamed for his mom. Suddenly, a voice cut through the memory, shouting his name. Cold sweat trickled down the boy's face. Snap back to reality. A pink-haired girl spun around. "You spacing out again?" she asked. He stood frozen in the student lineup, mumbling a quiet, "Nothing." She squinted, leaning in with suspicion written all over her face, asking, "You sure about that?" Itsuki stood there, a single tear still tracing a path down his cheek. Before he could explain, a buddy threw an arm around his shoulder, breaking the tension. "Dude, you're sleepwalking. You're usually out cold by now, but this surprise assembly wrecked your nap schedule." Itsuki ignored the banter, pointing at the stage. "Check out the teacher. What is with the getup?" Up front, a teacher rocking an armored helmet was breaking down the history of the disaster beasts. He explained how humanity fought back when the Awakened emerged. The armored man recounted how 10 years ago, the northern shore of the Blue River faced the ultimate siege. Awakened warriors from across the globe banded together for the legendary river crossing war. Although attacks had slowed down since that victory, the monuments are falling again. The numbers are spiking. A massive invasion, rivaling that war, is on the horizon. Itsuki's classmate leaned in, pointing to a figure on stage. "That is Izumi Nento, Commander-in-Chief of the Northern Continent. How do you live here and not know this guy?" Itsuki studied the man quietly. "The name rings a bell. I pictured some old geezer with a long beard. This guy looks weird." His friend grinned. "I get it, but don't let the looks fool you. Izumi Nento is the OG Awakened. He is the reason we even know how to fight these things." The friend was buzzing with excitement. "He is the strongest there is. Even Tiwajan, the guy known as humanity's beacon, had trained under him." We cut back to the armored legend himself. Dropping the lore, new research proves even regular NPCs who haven't awakened yet can unlock insane abilities just by making contact with the monolith. Izumi Nento commanded the stage, his long cloak rippling out like shadowy flames. He announced he was there, to give them a shot at awakening. He challenged them to dedicate their lives to the war against the calamity beasts. The second the words left his lips, a neon blue energy slash carved through the air, and the monument cracked open. Light exploded outward, sending debris flying while a shade-wearing guard stood watch. The student body lost their collective minds. One kid screamed, totally shook as the monolith levitated from the earth, wondering if he was witnessing actual sorcery. Another guy yelled that this wasn't the time to be stunned. Fists clenched, veins popping. He claimed it felt like a fever dream, praying to the universe for an awakening. Deep in the mob, Itsuki's buddy clawed at his arm, hype levels through the roof. He told Itsuki this was their one shot to stop being nobodies. Eyes sparkling, he dropped the word finally, like a prayer. He started marching toward the stage, but then he grabbed Itsuki's shoulder, hollering that he wasn't about to leave his boy behind. The pink-haired girl barked at them, ordering Itsuki to get his butt back in line. But Itsuki breezed right past her, a crimson flare igniting in his pupils. The girl froze, jaw-dropping, as that red light trailed through the air. Zoom in on Itsuki's face, shifting, his eyes burning with a chaotic scarlet excitement, as he whispered that the day had actually arrived. Up on the platform, a student placed a hand on the obsidian slab and got zero reaction. The guard immediately shouted that it was a dud and ordered the next recruit up. The vibe in the crowd instantly shifted to panic. One guy noted that the last failure was a freshman who shattered the school's athletic records. He figured if a total jock like that couldn't awaken, a guy like him had 0% chance. The girl next to him clapped back, saying muscles probably didn't matter, and told him to stop doom spiraling. More students lined up to gamble their fate. One after another, the guard barked the same cold command, next. The line kept churning, anxiety thickening the air. A white-haired kid pointed out with a shaky voice that literally no one had triggered it yet. Murmurs of dread rippled through the pack. A girl with a short, brown bob thought it would be a cakewalk. The dude next to her was shaking like a leaf, terrified their whole school was about to get wiped. The guard bellowed the next name, Oishi Hikaru. In the back, a clique of students started frantically whispering. One girl prayed he wouldn't awaken. Another broke it down, this guy was already a certified menace, and if he got powers, they were all cooked. Suddenly, a kid pointed at the stage, screaming that something was happening. Violent voltage erupted from the stone, blasting in all directions. Oishi Hikaru levitated off the deck, wreathed in crackling blue lightning. That flashbang of power grabbed every eyeball in the place. A holographic blue interface popped up next to him, scrolling his stats as he smirked like a villain. He figured both Izumi Nento and the lady beside him had to respect the drip now. The screen read, Oishi Hikaru, Human Level 0, Job Elementalist Lightning Gift Grade. 2. Undisclosed Status, Attack 3. Agility 4, Defense 2, Magic 3, Total 12, Stat Points. Watching from the VIP spot, the blue-haired woman murmured. She told her dad they finally caught a live one. She noted that Level 0 stats, usually capped at 5, but this kid hit a 12. Her father, Izumi Nento, kept his poker face. The girl admitted it was better than a total bust. The courtyard went dead silent, as Oishi Hikaru threw his hands up in victory. Magical confetti glittered around him, while he flexed that ego. He muttered, wondering if old man Nento had a speech prepared for the first awakened legend. But before he could stroke his ego anymore, a hand gripped his shoulder from the blind spot. He whipped around, stunned to see Itsuki walking right through his moment. Oishi spun on him, rage flaring, screaming in his face. He demanded to know why Itsuki was putting his filthy paws on him, asking if the kid had a death wish. The crowd started buzzing again. One girl asked who the heck that was, realizing he'd totally skipped the queue. Another identified him as Tenma Itsuki from Class 5. Someone else whispered that he was finished. Once Oishi locked onto a target, it was game over. From the high ground, the blue-haired woman and Commander Nento watched the drama unfold. The woman narrowed her gaze, claiming she sensed some absolutely raw, intense energy radiance from that student. Itsuki stood before the towering monolith and slapped his hand on the rock. His eyes burned crimson, as a reel of nightmare trauma played in his head. He growled that he refused to let go of his hatred for the Calamity Beasts. He had branded the horror of that day into his soul. Commander Nento stared ahead, sensing something impossible was about to drop. Out on the platform, a colossal blue spectral titan rose up behind Itsuki, towering over his small frame, sword in hand. Itsuki stood dead center as an aura of raw, overwhelming power crashed down, bathing him in electric blue light. The monument didn't just glow, it detonated with energy. A jagged, luminous structure materialized above him, whipped up by swirling torrents of light. That energy blasted outward, unfolding across the sky like a colossal ethereal lotus flower blooming in high speed. Down on the ground, the crowd froze. The entire school campus was locked inside a shimmering dome of pure power. Students gaped at the sky, jaws on the floor. One kid pointed up, hollering that the pillar of light was shooting hundreds of meters into the clouds. Another voice chimed in, insisting this light show totally eclipsed Oishi's awakening. Two of Itsuki's buddies watched the spectacle buzzing with adrenaline. They grilled and cheered, screaming that they just knew. Itsuki was built different. The blue-haired officer stared up, completely rattled. She stammered that this kind of phenomenon was virtually extinct. It only showed up for the rarest class, the Order Breaker. Hand clamped over her mouth, she couldn't mask her shock. Even Commander Nento broke his stoic silence, admitting he was hyped to see what this kid could actually do. Meanwhile, Oishi's face contorted, pure jealousy leaking out, as he death glared at the blinding pillar. Inside the energy storm, Itsuki blinked, his eyes open, dazed by the shimmering blue haze. Total confusion hit him. Was this the awakening? He scanned his surroundings and realized he was floating cross-legged. right in the heart of that massive light lotus. Infinite glowing petals drifted around him, suspended in a silent spiritual void. Suddenly, a holographic blue system interface popped into existence. Itsuki's eyes widened, reading the profile for Tenma Itsuki, race human, level 0, and it was locked there. Job class, order breaker. His gift was listed as Nirvana special grade. But here's the kicker, his level was capped. His stats only leveled up by snagging new skills. It wiped every debuff and maxed out his health instantly. Another window slid into view, revealing his skill, Overmimesis, a Z-rank ability. It could analyze enemy moves and instantly download a counter skill. Then came the stat breakdown. Attack 0, Agility 0, Defense 0, Magic 0, Total Power, Absolute 0. Itsuki's face drained of color. His jaw practically unhinged as he screamed internally, how could everything be a goose egg? But the system wasn't done. 2 more blue windows flashed in front of him. First up, Z-rank skill. Overmimesis acquired. Second notification, special grade gift Nirvana activated. Boom. Every single stat skyrocketed by 200 points. The screen refreshed with the new numbers. Attack jumped from 0 to 200. Agility leaped from 0 to 200. Defense spiked from 0 to 200. Itsuki's panic melted into a grin. He stared at the glowing text, eyes lit up. He finally got the cheat code every time Overmimesis stole a skill. Nirvana would juice his stats. He couldn't level up like a normal player, but he could stack power in a league of his own. He clenched his fist, confidence surging. He admitted he had no clue how this stacked up against the pros. But one thing was fact, he was officially an awakened. Eyes burning with resolve, he swore he would wipe every single disaster beast off the face of the earth. A tidal wave of blue light blasted from the monument. Students on the ground threw their arms up, screaming that the flare was blinding. Some clutched, their eyes wincing in pain. Cutting through that radiant whiteout, Itsuki's silhouette stood unshakable inside the glow. Arcs of lightning and raw mana spiraled around him. Oishi watched, shaking with denial. His face twisted into a snarl, screaming that this was impossible, a glitch in reality. The blue-haired officer gasped, eyes glued to her tablet. She slapped a hand over her mouth, stuttering that these numbers were broken for a rookie. Even Commander Nento had to agree, stating clearly that Itsuki was undeniably one of the strongest rookies in history. Back in the real world, Itsuki stepped out of the beam, blue energy petals trailing him like a cape. Seeing that aura of pure dominance, Commander Nento whispered just 2 words, the strongest. The public board flashed his stats. Tenma Itsuki, human, level 0, fixed, job order breaker, gift special grade, skills and status redacted, attack 200, agility 200, defense 200, magic 200, total power 800. The campus exploded. Students and teachers lost their minds, cheering wildly. They yelled that Tenma's stats just vertical leaped instantly. One kid cried out, saying they never dreamed their school would birth a legend like this. A veteran teacher bellowed that this moment was going straight into the history books. But in the middle of the hype, Oishi was vibrating with rage. Lightning crackled off his skin, eyes burning crimson. He ground his teeth, glaring daggers at Itsuki, furious that the applause, the glory he felt he owned, was being hijacked. Oishi's jealousy detonated voltage surging across his body. He roared that a scrub like Itsuki needed to stay in the dirt. Students scrambled back as lethal sparks snapped through the air. Pure shock painted every face in the hall. High-voltage arcs flooded the space as Oishi stepped forward, his expression absolutely unhinged. He vowed to delete Itsuki from existence with his fresh ability. But high above the panic, Itsuki stood totally unfazed atop the monument, gazing down like a king watching peasants. As electricity crackled beneath his boots, Itsuki tightened his grip, while a holographic blue interface snapped into existence. The screen flashed target-locked C-rank skill Silver Serpent detected. Overmimesis activated. Itsuki's eyes sharpened into laser focus as a cascade of blue data panels began crunching the numbers. The download kicked off at 27%, then surged forward, 57%, 69%, and climbing. While stray bolts flickered around his silhouette, Itsuki vanished. He launched himself with god-tier velocity, shattering the floor tiles the instant the lightning struck empty air. The student body gasped, collective confusion rippling through the crowd. "Wait, where'd he go?" one girl shrieked. "I just saw a spark, and then..." "Poof," another student stuttered. "He's gone." Oishi frantically scanned the area, head on a swivel. Totally lost. Meanwhile, the glowing progress bar ticked up to 88%. Like a phantom draped in voltage, Itsuki materialized right behind him. His eyes flared with a blinding horizontal light, freezing Oishi cold with pure terror. Cold sweat drenched Oishi's face as the realization hit. Paralyzed by fear, he felt the heavy weight of Itsuki's hand land on his shoulder. Itsuki's voice dropped to sub-zero temperatures. "You'd better thank your lucky stars. You were born human. If you were a disaster beast," he whispered, "I would have killed you about 100 times by now." Oishi started vibrating like a broken phone. fear locking up his entire system. A heartbeat later, Itsuki casually strolled past, leaving Oishi to crumple to the pavement in a heap. Yo, when did he even get behind him? A student screamed. Somewhere in the back, a nervous chuckle broke out. Dude's legs turned to jelly, someone mocked. Shh, keep it down before he targets us next. Another hissed. A fresh hologram hovered over Itsuki, 94%, then spiking upward. Azure energy began to spiral violently around his frame. As the counter hit 99%, Itsuki eyed the screen. Guess the download speed is boosted, since it's only a C-rank skill. Suddenly, the interface went pitch black before flashing aggressively. Analysis progress 100%. Boom raw electricity detonated around him as the notification pinged C-rank skill, Thunderbreaker, acquired. Itsuki stood at the epicenter of the chaotic blue storm, his body radiating light as the new power coiled around him like living, breathing electricity. The crowd watched white-knuckled as the aura intensified. One guy's jaw dropped, muttering, "It's happening again." Nearby, a student with shades adjusted his frames with a smirk. Glad I packed these bad boys. Meanwhile, inside the luminous mental realm, Itsuki sat in a meditative pose deep in thought. It clicked every time a download completed. The system forcibly dragged him into this construct. The holographic windows materialized before him. Silver Serpent analysis complete. Skill, Thunderbreaker, has been added to your arsenal. A spec sheet popped up. Thunderbreaker level 1. This ability let him act like a lightning rod, absorbing C-rank, and lower electrical attacks directly into his physique. And the kicker, when discharging that stored energy, his agility would skyrocket by 50%. It even came with a passive buff. Every single time he tanked a C-rank bolt, his base agility would permanently stack up by 5%. System update. All stats increased by 10 points. All status debuffs cleansed, the prompt read. Injuries fully restored. Back in the real world, the students shielded their eyes as a supernova of blue light erupted from Itsuki's core. Arcs of voltage whipped around him in a frenzy as he claimed the center of the arena steps. The static pressure was suffocating, forcing the crowd to stumble back and cover their faces. "Look at him," someone screamed. "He's literally draped in lightning from head to toe." Another student started losing it. That glow, it's way more intense than Oishi's. Speaking of Oishi, the guy who started this fight was staring with trembling pupils, his brain unable to process how Itsuki had mastered a skill of that caliber instantly. Itsuki's aura flared brighter, as the system HUD overlaid reality scrolling through his upgrades. Attack agility, defense, and magic, everything was spiking. Every attribute, jumping from 200 to 210, boosting his total power level from 800 straight to 840. Just then, the vibe shifted. Students tilted their heads up in confusion. Wait, wasn't it totally sunny like 5 seconds ago? Is that... Rain, a guy held out his palm to check, but a frantic shout cut him off. Incoming, something's dropping from the sky. A massive, dark, coffin-shaped monolith, wreathed in crackling electricity, was plummeting straight out of the storm clouds. The downpour intensified into a deluge as the object smashed into the school grounds with a deafening boom. The blue-haired woman with glasses spotted it and screamed in horror, "That's a monument. Why the hell is one appearing here?" Commander Nento didn't hesitate. Assembly cancelled. Everyone evacuate the perimeter immediately. G.O. Just like the simulations, he clocked it instantly that target lock was on him, zero doubt about it. The woman whipped her head toward Commander Nento, urging him to bail, insisting that throwdowns like this weren't their gig. But Nento, he didn't budge, just shaking his head. He warned that if they bolted now, it'd trigger mass hysteria. Instead, he pointed forward, telling her to focus, because the kid standing ground zero was way cooler than any veteran there. Right in front of them, lightning tore through the sky, exploding around the descending threat. Students scrambled like ants, screaming and scattering. But one guy, Itsuki, stood frozen in the eye of the storm, bathed in a ghostly blue aura. From the back line, the blue-haired instructor screamed, demanding to know why his feet were glued to the floor. Suddenly, a massive obsidian pillar crushed the earth, sending shockwaves and debris everywhere. Torrential rain hammered the chaos. Nearby, a group of students lost it. One guy yelled that disaster beasts were inbound, begging Itsuki to run for his life. But Itsuki, he just stood there, eyes glowing, a menacing crimson. His voice dropped an octave, ice cold as he swore. He was going to wipe every single one of them off the face of the planet. His squad stared at him like he'd grown a second head. One screamed that he was signing his death warrant. Another argued that he was a fresh, awakened, literally level 1. There was no way he could box a disaster beast. They begged him to leave it to the pros, but Itsuki just shook his head. Calm as a bomb diffuser, he told them to trust him. The pink-haired girl hesitated, panic written all over her features. Finally, she snapped, yelling that if he got himself killed, he better not haunt them for it. She grabbed her friend by the collar and dragged him away. The guy with glasses looked back, asking if ditching him was really the play, reminding her that they were up against a disaster beast, a literal walking weapon of mass destruction. As they sprinted off, Itsuki stared ahead with a maniacal grin. His eye burned bright red through the downpour. He muttered that his first boss fight after awakening just happened to be the monster that murdered his parents. Talk about luck. Lightning arced around his body as he took a step. A holographic interface popped up, breaking down the enemy stats. Target Skeleton Soldier 10, 369, Level 8, Gift Grade 2, Passive buff defense boosts by 100%. Critical rule: if incoming damage doesn't breach defense, the gift nullifies it. Active skill Bonefire B rank. Stats attack 15. Agility 10. Defense 120 plus. A bonus 120. Magic 30. Total combat power 295. The skeleton soldier stood engulfed in azure flames. As Itsuki stared it down, electricity surged, wrapping his arms like gauntlets as he dropped into a combat stance. His red eyes flashed with intensity. Time to road test that new ability. In a heartbeat, he launched himself forward, static electricity exploding off his frame. A trail of blue lightning ripped through the air. As he closed the distance on the flaming skeleton, impact. The two forces slammed together, sparks showering the rain-soaked field. The skeletal beast swung a haymaker, but Itsuki weaved through it. He wound up an electrified fist, putting his whole soul into the swing. Roaring that he wouldn't let another person die on his watch, his fist connected with the creature's ribcage, unleashing a violent energy burst. The impact was insane, launching the disaster beast across the campus like a ragdoll until it smashed through the school building. The earth shuddered as concrete and steel rained down. Students watching from the sidelines stood paralyzed. One kid whispered that Itsuki's power was broken, maybe running wasn't necessary. A girl nearby was flawed, witnessing a rookie one-shot a monster into a wall. The blue-haired inspector stared at the rubble, mind blown that a newbie awakened just yeeted a level 8 disaster beast with a single punch. The rain intensified. As Commander Nento analyzed the scene, realizing Itsuki's speed and raw output were leagues above any normal level 0. But even then, he knew dropping a skeleton soldier wasn't that simple. He broke it down. Skeleton soldiers have two nasty gimmicks. First, that insane defense buff. Second, a nightmare skill called Bonefire, flames that turn anything they touch into dust. Suddenly, blue hellfire erupted across the field, surging toward Itsuki like a tidal wave. The crowd gasped as the inferno closed in. Itsuki's friends screamed his name in pure terror. Oishi stepped up with a twisted grin, shouting that the arrogant fool was about to get cremated. Meanwhile, system screens flooded Itsuki's vision. Alert. Enemy executing Bonefire. Analysis initiated 1%. Then the numbers skyrocketed as the blue flames swallowed him whole. More alerts, 25%. Itsuki stood rock solid inside the blazing inferno, surrounded by streams of code. He noted calmly that the analysis speed spiked every time he took damage. The blue-haired instructor watched, eyes wide with horror. She muttered that even a level 10 awakened would be toast taking a hit like that. Blue flames continued to consume the arena, revealing Itsuki in the center half, his body burned away but still standing. He's glowing like straight-up bone. Through the roaring inferno, the blue-haired instructor's voice screams out, wailing that it's a tragedy, a total waste of a genius rookie getting wiped by a disaster beast before he even peaked. Holographic system windows glitch around Itsuki, 77% climbing to 81. He stares down at his own flesh, melting away, muttering that this is exactly what burning alive feels like. Then a soft whisper, "It must have hurt." A jagged memory tears through the fire, his mother's face half consumed by flames. The realization hits him, the pain she felt was unbearable. Yet in her final moments she forced a smile just to protect him from the horror. Meanwhile, Commander Nento narrows his eyes, watching like a hawk, betting that Itsuki is still holding back. The azure flames rage violently around him as that progress bar ticks higher. Itsuki's skeletal fist clenches tight. He declares that the second this analysis hits 100, the enemy is history. Ding, the system flashes analysis progress 100%. Outside the inferno, the students are murmuring, straight up panicked. One guy asks if they were dumb to pin their hopes on a fresh awakened rookie. Another admits he was an idiot to expect a miracle. But then someone points, screaming in shock. The blue lotus flower is blooming again. He yells that Itsuki might just pull off another miracle. Cobalt light spins around Itsuki inside that scorching aura. He's standing there, wondering what insane new skill is about to drop. The fire dies down, exposing his charred, cracked skin beneath the blue glow. Suddenly, a system window pops up, confirming the analysis of Bonefire is done. Notification: new skill acquired, black wall. More details scroll by. Active effect. Consumes magic to coat the body in ice armor. Nullifying fire skills ranked B or lower. Passive effect. Massive defense boost when blocking those attacks. Another ping notification: black wall has already leveled up to level 2. And every single stat just got boosted by 20 points. All debuffs cleansed. Injuries fully restored. A fresh status screen flickers into view. Attack, agility, defense, magic. Everything jumped from 210 straight to 230. Total stats spiked from 820. Itsuki just stares at the glowing display, ice cold. He recalls his strongest hit bouncing off the skeleton soldier earlier. But with this upgrade, he knows he can crush it. Suddenly, azure petals unfurl around him, blooming into a colossal flower of light. Itsuki stands dead center, bathed in radiant energy. The spectators gasp, jaws hitting the floor. One student screams, "He's alive." The rest erupt into cheers, convinced he's got this in the bag. Someone points out that a full reset like that is basically a miracle. The blue-haired instructor just stares, completely shook. Watching this insanity, she wonders aloud if he's packing a self-healing skill, but she saw him drop lightning earlier, so the healing makes zero sense. Commander Nento is equally floored. He recalls that Order Breakers are the most mysterious class out there, but even among them, Itsuki is a total anomaly. Meanwhile, Itsuki stands amidst the glowing petals. His body is pristine, not a scratch left on him. Blue shards drift in the air as he inspects his restored form. Itsuki whispers almost in disbelief, calling it a perfect recovery. He starts wondering, if he got his limbs chopped off, would they grow back? What if his brain got destroyed? He admits he's actually curious to test the limits of this regen. Suddenly, the skeleton soldier roars, armor blazing with blue bone fire. The flames surge violently as the beast charges Itsuki, pivots calmly, raising an arm as black spikes erupt across his skin. The azure inferno rushes him. He gets completely engulfed in fire, but he doesn't flinch. Not an inch. Moments later, his silhouette cuts through the blaze. He's clad in thick layers of black spikes, red eyes glowing coldly from behind cracked ice armor. Boom! Itsuki tears through the air, shooting upward. The explosion of blue fire rocks the arena. He crashes down, armored body crackling with electricity. As he readies the kill shot, the skeletal beast strikes, but Itsuki is already gone. Appearing behind the monster faster than the eye can track, Itsuki raises his arm and morphs it into a massive black spike sword surging with voltage. He moves with blinding speed, and with one slash cleaves the skeletal beast clean in two. The students watching from the sidelines are paralyzed. One guy gasps that Itsuki got behind that disaster beast instantly, like he straight up teleported. Another claims only a high-level awakened could even track that speed. Oishi is totally stunned too, admitting she couldn't see him move at all. It was on a whole different level. The blue-haired instructor. The crowd questioned if this kid was actually a rookie, but as the dust settled, Itsuki was the last man standing. The jagged black spikes on his body retracted as he delivered a crushing kick, obliterating the skeleton beast's skull. He froze, absolutely stunned. This wasn't just armor, it was a weapon. He realized he could morph that protective shell into any lethal tool he could imagine. He'd been craving a god-tier skill that mastered both offense and defense, and he just got it. Suddenly, a voice cut through the noise. Itsuki whipped around just in time to get tackle-hugged by his best friend, who was squeezing the life out of him in pure relief. Bro was rambling about how hyped he was for the win, admitting he'd been low-key stressing the whole time. Itsuki paused, mind drifting. "Where's Saya?" His friend pulled back, face dropping. She was watching earlier, looked like she was about to burst into tears. But now, she's ghosted. Itsuki scanned the crowd, heart sinking. Why wouldn't she come down here? He searched the sea of students' confusion, turning into anxiety. Was she mad at him? What was the vibe? Nearby, the blue-haired instructor Choa surveyed the wreckage, her expression deadly serious. She couldn't wrap her head around it. A kid soloing a skeleton soldier, even level 10. Awakened struggle with those things. This was insane. Commander Nento barked orders at Choa, telling her to handle the cleanup. But he had a bigger mission for her. Tell the principal I'm taking the boy. Meanwhile, Itsuki's friend gripped his shoulder, trying to calm him down. Dude, chill. There's no way Seiya's mad at you after a win like that. She's probably just feeling insecure about the power gap. Bet she ran off to the monument to grind some levels. Itsuki looked down. I hope you're right, he muttered. Suddenly, a deep voice boomed. Are you Tenma, Itsuki? Itsuki spun around to find Commander Nento towering over him, cape flowing in the wind. Itsuki locked eyes with the legend silent. The crowd erupted into whispers. Everyone clocked him immediately, Izumi Nento. A literal celebrity talking to the rookie. Is he trying to recruit him? No way is he making the kid his personal student. Dream on, others scoffed. The only student Nento ever took under his wing was Taijin. Literally, humanity's strongest fighter. Kid's strong, but he ain't Taijin level. No way it's happening. Sensing the heavy atmosphere, Itsuki's friend backed off to find Saya. Nento gazed down at the boy, his expression unreadable. You, Nento started voice, calm but commanding. You are truly special. Itsuki blinked, echoing the word. Special. What was that supposed to mean? Nento wasn't looking at the boy's muscles. He was looking at his aura. I see dark energy swirling around you. Your heart. It's consumed by rage. Shadowy energy pulsed around Itsuki, his eyes glowing with an eerie light. Nento took a step closer. Tell me, Nento demanded. What is the source of this hatred? Itsuki's voice went cold. 10 years ago, my parents were slaughtered by disaster beasts trying to save me. The memory hit him like a truck, a flashback to his childhood nightmare. He saw his younger self sobbing and helpless as death closed in. He would have died too if a high-level awakened hadn't swooped in last second. The hero smashed the beast right in front of him. But for Itsuki, the horror was just beginning. He watched paralyzed as blue flames ate his mother alive. Her face, half of it just crumbled into bone and ash right before his eyes. Yet, she smiled. A gentle, heartbreaking smile. You have to walk the rest of this path alone, she whispered. Little Itsuki just stared, trembling, unable to process the horror. His voice broke as he screamed for her. Back in the present, fury boiled in his veins. His parents were gone because of these monsters. Tears streaked his face as he screamed in denial. Then he saw a massive, monstrous silhouette rising from the shadows. Enveloped in raging purple flames, the entity cast a shadow that swallowed Itsuki whole. He knew instantly. This was the root of all evil. Itsuki shook, not with fear, but with pure, unadulterated rage. His eyes glowed crimson. That day he made a blood vow. He would slaughter that demon. I'll kill every single one of them. In the present, Itsuki clenched his jaw, a single tear falling as he declared his mission. I will wipe their entire species from existence. Nento watched him intrigued. You're full of hate, yet you still cry. Itsuki wiped his face, voice going dead, calm. Since that day, since I watched my mother burn, my left eye hasn't shed a tear in 10 years, but my right eye, it cries on its own. It's a constant reminder. I will never forget my hatred. Nento nodded, mind made up. Become my student, Nento offered. I'll get you into the Salvation League. I'll give you the power you need to exact your revenge. Itsuki paused, the words hanging in the air. The Salvation League. Commander Izumi laid out the master plan. He told Itsuki that to scientifically dismantle the disaster beast threat, the governments of the 5 continents had pooled their resources, recruiting the deadliest awakened warriors from every corner of the globe, to form an elite coalition known as the Saviors. He didn't stop there, explaining that Saviors didn't just get a title, they got the royal treatment, state-of-the-art training facilities, and weapons that packed a serious punch. And the paycheck astronomical. Even total rookies pulled in 10,000 gold a month. Itsuki's jaw nearly hit the floor. 10,000 gold, that was enough to drop cash on a brand new car. But Izumi cut the fantasy short. That VIP treatment wasn't charity. Saviors were the shield expected to grind on the front lines 24/7 to keep civilians breathing. Standing there shirtless, Itsuki's expression remained ice cold. He looked Izumi dead in the eye. The fat stacks of cash, the fancy gear. He didn't care. A fire lit up in his gaze. He clenched his fist, knuckles turning white, and dropped his real motivation. All he wanted was the smoke-fighting disaster beasts head-on. With savage resolve, he announced he was joining the Saviors. Izumi nodded and explained the entry ritual. Every February, the Salvation League hosted the Ultimate Showdown, the National Salvation League tournament. Over 10,000 hungry contenders fought for points, but it was brutal. Only the top 100 survivors made the cut to become official Saviors. Itsuki didn't blink. He immediately asked what the all-time high score was. Izumi warned him that the number was practically a glitch in the system. The record was 115,000 points, set by the legend Taijin 11 years ago. A passing grade was just 30% of that, and locking in first place usually only took 50%. Itsuki went silent, letting the name Taijin sink in. The light of humanity, the guy Rukuru hyped up. Izumi told Itsuki that Jin was a freak of nature, and trying to chase his ghost would only crush his spirit. But still, Izumi told him to keep his chin up, believing that one day Itsuki really could stand shoulder to shoulder with the legend. Itsuki stood tall on the training grounds. With a gaze sharp enough to cut glass, he didn't just vow to match Taijin, he swore to surpass him. Inside his helmet, Izumi's eyes went wide. The words triggered a memory, flashing him back to the glory days. He remembered standing beside Taijin, joking about how the guy was basically a celebrity. The rookies were all trying to clone his style. But Taijin had shaken his head. Copycats couldn't win this war. He said a true successor would eclipse him like a blazing sunrise, replacing the fading sunset. He was waiting for that day. Looking at the fire in Itsuki's eyes, Izumi realized the wait was over. The sunrise was finally here. A few hours later, Izumi brought him to a new zone. In the distance, a massive, glowing dome dominated the skyline. Itsuki stared at the alien structure and asked what the deal was. Izumi didn't sugarcoat it. He explained that these monuments were literal tiers and reality bridges connecting Earth to the disaster beast dimension. Killing the beasts wasn't enough. If the monument stayed standing, the monsters would just respawn endlessly. He pointed at the dome. That facility was a containment unit built to quarantine the indestructible monuments. Awakened warriors had to dive in periodically and purge the beasts that spilled out. It kept the threat on a leash and doubled as a hardcore training ground. Itsuki sized up the building, asking if it was just for practice. Izumi nodded. In the business, they called these death traps stages. But this wasn't a simulation. The number and power level of the beasts inside were random and lethal. Izumi dropped the bomb. The beasts in this specific stage were absolute nightmares compared to normal rookie levels. It had the highest body count, earning the grim nickname the Rookie's Graveyard. Then he mentioned the record. Back in the day, Jin speedrun this hellhole in 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Izumi turned to Itsuki. If he was serious about dethroning the king, 3 minutes was the hard limit. Izumi laid down the gauntlet, clear the stage in under 3 minutes, and he'd take Itsuki on as his personal disciple. Itsuki's focus sharpened into a blade. He was going to crush that record and secure his mentor. As they entered, the lobby head snapped around. The vibe shifted instantly. Whispers erupted as people spotted Commander Izumi. But then eyes drifted to the kid walking beside him. The crowd couldn't believe it. No rookie walked with Izumi unless they were on Taejin's level of power. Itsuki scanned the crowd, low-key skeptical. Was this guy actually a big deal, or was it all just hype? Brushing it off, he strutted toward the entrance. The holo display overhead flashed the danger rating Disaster Beast level 10. He did the math. Only 2 ticks above that skeleton soldier he smoked earlier. How tough could these things actually be? But here's the weird part. The lobby was packed, yet nobody looked ready to throw down. 0 challengers queuing up. Why the hesitation? A whisper drifted from the crowd. Check the new guy. Way too cocky. Bet he's got a high-level carry, someone sneered. Wish I could leech off a carry like that, another groaned. Then a snicker cut through the noise. Nah, bro's just here to rizz up the receptionist. Thinks a pretty face gets him special treatment. The receptionist approached, flashing a practiced plastic smile. Welcome to the stage. Party size, or just looking? Just me, Itsuki dropped casually. Dead silence. The entire lobby froze. Her smile faltered as she stared him down. Snap. She slammed her hands on the desk, face twisting with rage. This isn't a comedy club, kid. You think this is a game. If you're trying to shoot your shot, save it. Look, I know it's artificial, but people bleed in there. They die. Get that through your head. Itsuki blinked, completely lost. What was she waffling about? Behind him, the crowd erupted into mocking laughter. Called it dudes down bad, someone hollered. Always one idiot treating the raid zones like Tinder. Usually get roasted and run home crying. Itsuki ignored the peanut gallery, locking eyes with her. Time to clear the air. Listen, I have 0 interest in you. None. I'm here to fight, period. She sighed, massaging her temples like he was a massive headache. Oh, honey, you don't have to act tough just because you got rejected. Tell you what, I'll give you my number, okay? Now be a good boy and go home. The air around Itsuki turned frigid. Shadows clung to his face. Don't make me repeat myself. I don't want your digits. I want access. Open the gate. The sheer intensity made her flinch. She finally folded. Fine. But when you get killed, not my fault. Hands trembling, she slid a metal bracelet across the counter. Itsuki snatched it up. Could have saved us both 5 minutes if you just did your job, instead of making me say it twice. He turned away, leaving her stunned. The crowd buzzed with fresh gossip. What a moron, one guy muttered. She handed him her number and he fumbled the bag to look cool. He's level 0, bro. Entering a level 10. That's a suicide run. I give him 60 seconds before he bails. I don't know, another mused. He walks like he owns the place. Maybe that special grade gift isn't just for show. Please, gifts are just shiny toys, a veteran scoffed. Levels are king, always have been. Without the stats, he's toast. Ignoring the noise, Itsuki stood before the massive gate. He raised the bracelet. Biodata synced. Time to log in. A hologram flared to life. Access granted. Welcome awakened Tenma Itsuki. Itsuki cracked his knuckles, exhaling slowly. The deal was 3 minutes. No more, no less. Showtime. A neon green timer materialized in the air 001. The gate groaned open and boom, Itsuki launched like a missile. Crimson aura exploded around him, trailing red light. Eyes glowing with lethal focus, he breached the threshold. The scale was insane, way bigger on the inside. He tore across the open grasslands, locking onto a looming black tower in the distance. First dungeon run, even if it's a sim. Stay sharp. Suddenly movement, something fast incoming. Here we go. A creature lunged from the brush, a twisted wooden nightmare. The Kodama tribe. System window popped. Target Kodama, 1307. Tribe Kodama. LVL4, Gift None, ATK 49, AGI 48, Def 53, Mag 24. Total stats, 174. Pathetic. Itsuki's hand morphed, erupting into jagged black spikes. With 0 hesitation, he slammed down. Wham! A shockwave of pure force cleaved the air. Dust settled. Itsuki stood there, arm transformed into a monstrous obsidian axe. A smirk tugged at his lips. Lumberjack logic, axe beats tree every time. He glanced at the trembling horde. So, who's next on the chopping block? The swarm shrieked, charging en masse. Itsuki didn't flinch. Come get it, you rotten kindling. Meanwhile, outside the simulation, Choha turned to her father, Commander Nento, brows furrowed. Dad, real talk. Why throw the rookie into the deep end on his first run? Commander Nento kept it real. Itsuki talked big about surpassing Jin, so Nento dragged him to the same hellhole to prove it. Jin was the first to throw down the gauntlet. Choa wasn't buying it, claiming that surpassing Jin was a pipe dream, unless you were ready to abandon your humanity. Nento smirked, hitting her with the heavy question. So you think Jin's already ascended past being human? Choa flashed back to day one. She pinned Jin as this chill, approachable dude. Big mistake. Next thing she knew, he deleted a level 97. Disaster beast in a heartbeat. She shivered, remembering that switch-up. His eyes went dead during that fight cold, isolated and completely otherworldly. To her, those didn't look like human eyes at all. She described that stare with pure awe, saying his eyes were like the gaze of a literal god. Nento nodded, dropping the bombshell that Itsuki held that same S-tier potential, deep inside. But right now, he's just a rough diamond. Nento broke it down. If Jin is the savior god, bathing in light Itsuki is the flip side, a straight-up demon, fueled by pure rage. Cut to the battlefield. Itsuki flexed over a pile of wrecked wooden beasts. He scoffed, noting that overmimesis wouldn't even trigger on trash mobs of this level. Suddenly, a sinister shadow loomed behind him, eyes burning red. Itsuki's eye matched that glow as the darkness towered over him. Whoosh! He blurred into motion, slicing through the enemies with surgical precision. Itsuki stood over the carcass, looking bored. Is that it? He asked. He kicked the broken body, wondering if level 10 disaster beasts were all hype and no bite. But the logic didn't add up. They didn't call this place the rookie's graveyard for nothing. Something was off. Bingo. A blue system window popped up in his face. B-rank skill, self-regeneration detected. Overmimesis kicked in. Then the HUD lit up. Analysis started, followed by analysis progress 5%. Itsuki snapped around as a noise broke the silence. Creepy vibe check that level 10 beast was resurrecting behind him, twisting upward with glowing green eyes. Vines exploded out like tentacles aiming for the kill. Itsuki braced himself, mind racing. He literally chopped half its head off, and it just shrugged it off. As the monster towered over him again, Itsuki narrowed his eyes. Knew it wouldn't be a walk in the park, he muttered. The system interface glowed blue, doxing the enemy details. It identified the horror as regenerated Kodama. Subject 520 of the Kodama tribe, a level 10 beast rocking a grade 2 gift. Its defense tanked by 50%, but that healing factor, through the roof. The stat sheet rolled in. Attack 110, agility 100, defense 60, magic 180. Total score 450. As the roots lashed out like whips, Itsuki clenched his fist. Alert black wall activated. Instantly, jagged black spikes coated his hand. He shredded the incoming vines and lunged straight at the monster. Mid-air dodging his brain worked faster than his body. He realized the beast's regeneration had a limit. It couldn't heal if he obliterated it fast enough. The play, drop a nuke of damage in 0 seconds flat. The analysis bar loaded beside him. Boom, Itsuki smashed his armored fist forward, shattering the Kodama's guard. Debris and sparks flew everywhere. With eyes glowing crimson, he moved like a phantom, dissecting the wooden forest. Every step sent a shockwave through the dirt. Every hit boosted the analysis counter. He surged up again, his arm blazing with cold blue mana like a blade. Then he dropped like a meteor, splitting the giant body clean in half. The light from his strike blinded the entire battlefield. A glowing fracture raced down the beast's center golden light, bleeding through the cracks from head to torso. As the behemoth started to crumble, Itsuki watched with a savage grin, eyes burning sharp red. Not done yet, he snarled. He swore to turn the creature into sawdust so it could never put itself back together. He threw both arms up. Slash. A blinding vertical beam tore the monster apart again. Cuts erupted all over the creature, shattering the wooden shell into pixelated confetti. Fragments flew, glowing faintly before dissolving into nothing. Itsuki exhaled, lowering his arm as the dust settled. That should do it. He noted that holding Black Wall was tanking his mana reserves, but before he could catch a breath, the vines knotted together again. The wooden nightmare surged up, yellow eyes glowing, rising from the grave for round 2. The HUD stalled at 60%, but the brawl wasn't over. Tendrils lashed out at Itsuki, and he weaved through them with fluid, annoyed steps. He glanced back, totally over it. Seriously, the monster just refused to die. This is becoming a real headache, he grumbled, as attacks rained down from every angle. Mid-dodge, the realization hit him like a truck. Every time that monstrosity put itself back together, Overmimesis cranked up the analysis speed. Eyes narrowing, he did the math. The longer this brawl dragged on, the faster the download would finish. Time for a strategy pivot. He killed the Black Wall shield to save his juice banking, everything on Thunderbreaker's agility, to weave through the chaos. The game plan, keep playing, keep away, and rinse and repeat the damage until the analysis hit 100%. Major snag though. The 3-minute timer was breathing down his neck, and his mana was running on fumes. Blue lightning arched across his skin. As the progress bar hit 75%, he gritted his teeth, flipping the switch on both Thunderbreaker and Black Wall for one final push. He went full aggro, forcing the beast into a constant loop of destruction and regeneration. It was a gamble to turbocharge the analysis speed. Raw power surged electric serpents dancing wildly down his arm. Cold steel gaze locked on target, he lunged. The creature's wooden torso split clean down the center. Through the splintered cracks, gold eyes burned. Sparks flew in a violent storm. If Overmimesis choked when his tank hit empty, it was game over. Literally. 80%. 85. He forced his screaming muscles to keep moving. Dodging a hurricane of timber, he told himself, die now. And this whole grind meant absolutely nothing. One last massive bolt coalesced in his fist. He swung for the kill shot, but inches from the monster's skull. 0. The tank went dry. His body seized up, blood spilling from his lips as he slumped forward. Damn it. Itsuki froze, impaled by jagged wooden spikes, looking like a broken puppet on a string. He hung his head. Steam hissed off his injuries. He whispered the grim truth: his magic had finally tapped out. Suddenly, a holographic HUD flashed 99%. Itsuki's dying gaze instantly sharpened into a glare. Crimson ran down his chin, but his eyes were ice cold. Just as I thought, he rasped. Overmimesis doesn't run on mana. A twisted grin spread across his face. Checkmate, my win. The system window pinged the verdict. Analysis, complete, 100%. A brilliant blue lotus bloomed from his core, shattering the wooden spikes like glass. The notification popped, self-regeneration analysis, complete. Skill unlocked, lotus burst. The energy flower exploded outward, blowing back the debris. The specks scrolled across his vision. Lotus burst level 2. Active burns mana to nuke enemies within a 5-meter radius, with explosive damage. Damage scales with consumption. Passive. Every time this skill deletes a level 1 or higher mob. Skill range buffs by plus 1%. The lotus fully unfurled, bathing Itsuki in a radiant pink aura. Flesh knit back together in seconds. Another ping lotus, burst level 2 acquired. All stats plus 20. Debuffs cleansed. HP fully restored. The monster watched its glowing yellow eyes narrowing in confusion. One last prompt. Lotus burst activated. Itsuki slapped his hands together in a prayer motion. Boom. A roaring inferno detonated, swallowing everything in front of him. A tidal wave of fire ripped through the arena. The beast's silhouette vaporized in the smoke. When the embers finally settled, Itsuki stood tall, blood streaking his cheek, hands still outstretched from the devastating cast. Exhaling calmly, he surveyed the damage. Lotus burst. Not too shabby. Smoke curled up from the scorched crater at his feet. Checking out the carnage, he mused that utilizing just a third of his mana pool caused this much devastation. Clearing out trash-tier disaster beasts was going to be a breeze now. But even he had to admit, he didn't expect Overmimesis to reboot his mana after hitting absolute 0. He took a step, but something glittered on the floor. He paused, locking eyes with a glowing green crystal. What do we have here? He muttered. Meanwhile, back in the lobby, the receptionist was glued to the red warning screen, sweating bullets. It's been 3 minutes since rookie Itsuki went in, she panicked. And he's not coming out. She pointed at the HUD challenge in progress. Stage level 10, Challenger Tenma Itsuki. Timer, 2 minutes 9 seconds. Voice shaking, she yelled, we need the rescue squad stat. Choa just adjusted her glasses, cool as a cucumber. I doubt Itsuki would fold to some level 10 fodder. But clearing the stage in under 3 minutes, that sounds impossible. She trailed off, the silence heavy. Suddenly, the big screen flashed a massive notification. New record achieved. The entire hall went dead silent. Then the shockwaves hit. Whispers erupted. One woman stepped up, jaw on the floor, staring at the green text. No freaking way. Choa's eyes went wide. She gasped, barely able to process the scene. How the hell did he clear that? But here's the kicker. The clock barely ticked past 2 minutes. A massive notification lit up the monitor. Challenge success. Stage level 10, Challenger Tenma Itsuki. Time 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Stage cleared. New record. You could hear a pin drop. The entire room froze, eyes glued to the scoreboard in total disbelief. First place now belonged to Tenma Itsuki with a savage time of 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Second place, Tiwajin. He was eating dust at 3 minutes 14. Third place went to Heatenshow, lagging way behind at 7 minutes 17. The gate hissed open. Itsuki stepped out looking like he'd been through a blender, clothes shredded and drenched in green alien gore. The crowd lost it. Dude actually lived. One guy shouted, staring at the mess. Is that disaster beast blood? Another voice cracked through the noise. He beat Tiwajin by a full minute. Are you kidding me? Someone pointed at the screen, shaking. Those were level 10 monsters in there. How does a rookie handle that? Exactly. A level 0 should be dead meat. Suddenly, the whispers died down. Yo, quiet. Mr. Izumi is here. Izumi Nento locked eyes with the rookie. Itsuki stood tall, wiping the grime off his face. So Itsuki asked, "Does this mean I officially get Commander Nento's training?" A faint, confident smirk played on his lips. He looked the old man in the eye. "Teacher." Nento beamed with pride. "You did well, kid. Exactly what I expected." Choha watched from the sidelines silent. Is Dad actually happy? She hadn't seen a look like that on his face in years. The crowd was buzzing again, theories flying everywhere. "No way, he's really Izumi Nento's student," someone shouted, totally shook. "That explains how he crushed the record," another muttered. But the haters weren't done yet. So what? If his level is stuck at 0, he's got a hard ceiling, no growth potential. Then the receptionist shuffled forward nervously. She was holding a fancy box like it was a bomb. This is a reward for breaking the record," she squeaked. "Please accept it." Her expression softened, guilt written all over her face. "And, sorry for trash-talking you earlier." Itsuki blinked, genuinely surprised as he took the box. "Wait, I get loot for this. Sweet." He waved it off. "Don't sweat it. Honestly, a level 0 charging in there looked like a suicide mission. I get why you said that. I'm a total stranger. If I died, it wouldn't matter. You trying to stop me just proved you were worried." The receptionist turned beet red. "No, it wasn't like that," she stammered. Itsuki just smiled and said, "Thanks." That broke her. She was blushing so hard she might explode. Nearby, Choha had seen enough. "Hey, I'm leaving." She adjusted her glasses, throwing him a sharp look. "Don't lag behind. And don't get cocky just because you're Dad's student now." Itsuki snapped to attention. "Right, on it." Beside her, Commander Nento analyzed his new pupil. "You know," Nento mused, "that stage looked way too easy for you. We need to crank up the heat. I think you're ready for the big leagues. The advanced stages." Itsuki paused, caught off guard. Advanced stages. Cut to sunset on the rooftop. As they walked, Commander Nento dropped some lore. "Listen, a beast's strength isn't just about levels. The real game changer," he said darkly, "is the species." Choha chimed in. "The mindless ones that just run on instinct, those are trash mobs. Easy pickings. But some species, they're smart. Human-level intelligence or higher. That's when things get messy. Those things are a nightmare compared to regular beasts." She glanced at Itsuki. "Think of it like this. Awakened humans and disaster beasts are basically two sides of the same coin, but only we have jobs. Species stats are wild. Advanced stages are full of those high-tier intelligent monsters," she explained. "The difficulty spike is insane, and most of those stages, they're sitting right in North District 4. She looked him dead in the eye. "And that's exactly where you're headed. Any questions?" Itsuki went quiet. His mind flashed back to the two beasts he just slaughtered. He thought about the fight. Silence. No tactical retreat. No fear. They didn't even scream when he sliced them up. Did they simply not feel pain? Itsuki looked up, his eyes burning with a cold, intense light. "Hey, do the intelligent ones have pain receptors? Or are they numb too?" Choha froze. A terrifying chill ran down her spine as she turned to face him. She could feel the dread radiating off him, a terrifying aura that made the air heavy. Itsuki was plotting something, and she had no idea what was going through his head. Behind them, the crowd was already buzzing. The gossip mill was spinning out of control. "Yo, did you hear?" one guy whispered. "Is it true Izumi's actually throwing Itsuki into an advanced stage?" "So what?" another scoffed. "The kid smashed Taewon's record. He's built different. He'll be fine." "You're tripping a veteran," cut in, shaking his head grimly. "Advanced stages aren't just harder. They're a completely different nightmare. It's not just the monsters." He dropped his voice. "North District 4. That whole zone is locked down by one guy. The rumors were straight out of a horror movie. Every awakened who stepped into an advanced stage there just vanished. Poof. Gone. Word is the guy hunts them for sport," he hissed. Someone mentioned the name Kinoshita Raiji, and a random extra started trash-talking immediately. "Kinoshita, who dude thinks he's royalty or something." Before he could finish, his buddy practically tackled him, clamping a hand over his mouth. "Shut up, you have a death wish," he hissed, eyes wide with panic. "If word gets back to him, you're deleted. Done. That's the governor's son, Kinoshita Raiji. You don't mess with him." Smash cut to a penthouse suite dripping in gold. And there he was, Raiji himself, lounging on a velvet sofa like a king, his entourage hovering nervously. "Boss, what's the ETA on departure?" a lackey asked. Raiji just smirked, the arrogance practically oozing off him. "Relax. I own every stage in North District 4. I move when I feel like it," he drawled. "Waiting in line. That's for peasants." He raised his glass, savoring the power trip. Meanwhile, miles away, Itsuki cracked open the ornate box. A crimson gem pulsed on the red velvet cushion. The squad was chilling under the trees, but the vibe shifted the second that light hit their eyes. Itsuki stared at the stone, a flash of recognition crossing his face. "This thing. It's from back then," he muttered. Commander Nento raised an eyebrow. "You know what a karma stone is, kid?" Itsuki nodded, keeping his poker face. "Yeah. After I wiped out those disaster beasts, one of them dropped something similar." He paused. "But there's a catch. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a glowing green crystal. Mine looked like this, he said, holding it up. Green, but the energy felt off. Choha's jaw hit the floor. No way, she gasped, eyes bugging out. That's an intermediate karma stone, in a beginner stage. That's literally impossible. She shoved her glasses up her nose, leaning in to inspect the loot. Itsuki just looked at her confused. Okay, so, what's the deal with these karma stones anyway? Choha spun around, dropping into tutorial mode for the rookie standing before her. She broke it down simply. Karma stones were basically physical XP drops. Whenever a disaster beast or an awakened got deleted from existence, they released karma invisible energy just like experience points in a game. Sucking up that energy was how you leveled up. So a karma stone was just a solid battery pack of that raw power. A glowing hologram flickered to life as she spoke, visualizing exactly how a player could tap into a stone and drain the juice inside. But then her expression tightened. Karma stones weren't supposed to spawn naturally. That made this whole situation totally sus. Choha wondered out loud why a loot drop like this would spawn in this specific stage. Beside her, Commander Nento murmured that it was likely a side effect of Itsuki's gift. That statement threw both Itsuki and Choha for a loop, prompting them to double-check what he meant by gift. Nento broke down the mechanics. Usually when you frag an enemy, the killer instantly absorbs the XP. But even though Tenma had soloed 2 disaster beasts, his level hadn't budged. That meant the system hadn't processed the absorption. And manifested energy doesn't just glitch out and vanish without a cause. Connecting the dots, he theorized that the karma from the beast attacking the school had been soaked up by the awakened nearby, meaning the squad standing right there. But since a stage is a locked server, and Tenma couldn't process the loot, that loose energy had nowhere to go. It clumped together and solidified into a karma stone. Choha's eyes went wide. If he couldn't level up, she asked, how were his stats skyrocketing? Before she could finish, Nento shot up from his seat, cutting her off with a sharp reminder. An Awaken's gift is classified intel top secret. Realizing she'd crossed a line, she stammered a quick apology. Nento pivoted back to Itsuki, shifting gears. The stone was his property. Now he could stash it in his inventory. Or flip it for cash. Then he dropped the bombshell. He was jetting off to a massive Commander-in-Chief summit for the 5 continents, leaving Choha to babysit while he was gone. But before he logged off, he had a main quest list for Itsuki to memorize. Nento's voice was steady as he laid down the law. Rule 1, keep their master-student bond on the down low. Rule 2, never ever leak info about his gift. Rule 3 was a grind requirement. Itsuki needed to clear at least 6 advanced stages before the teacher got back. And the final instruction hit different. He told Itsuki to trust his gut and act without hesitation, promising that he'd have his back no matter how messy things got. Hearing that level of loyalty, Itsuki flashed a determined grin. Yes, teacher. Meanwhile, over at the Flaming Rock Execution Ground in North District 4, chaos was brewing. A mob of students was getting in the face of suited guards blocking the gate. One kid screamed that they were there first and demanded entry. The guards weren't having it. They announced the stage was fully booked by the son of the Kinoshita clan, telling the plebs to go home. The crowd went feral. One student shouted that being a pay-to-win player didn't give him the right to hijack the whole server. Another pointed out the rich kid hadn't even spawned in yet, so they should let the regulars grind first. Frustration peaked. One guy threatened to report this nonsense to the Awakened Guild, yelling that he didn't care whose daddy was paying the bills. But before he could finish his rant, a shadow, with glowing crimson eyes, manifested behind them, silencing the noise. A split second later, a shockwave blasted forward. The students were tossed like ragdolls as a massive tank of a man struck with devastating force, clearing the mob instantly. But one student didn't back down, rushing the giant. A sharp white energy arc sliced the air, aiming for a critical hit. But the attack slammed into the muscular brute's chest and literally bounced off, sending tremors through the ground. The impact sounded like a car crash. A blonde student, watching from the back, froze in sheer terror. He muttered that his Earth Spine, a B-rank skill, had done absolutely 0 damage. The brute turned, his face warping into a nightmare mask of metallic tattoos and burning red eyes. He roared that the attack didn't even tickle. The blonde kid started shaking uncontrollably. Earth Spine was designed to pierce through armor. He stared at the man, wondering if he was looking at a human or a straight-up boss monster. Before he could blink, the beast man lunged, grabbing him. A violent red aura flared up as he loomed over his prey. Wham! The giant smacked the blonde kid's head. The student hit the pavement hard. Blood sprayed from his mouth, eyes rolling back white, body twitching from the concussive force. The spectators gasped, their minds blown. Whispers spread that a level 7 and a level 8 had just been one-shotted without even putting up a fight. This guy was broken. Someone finally dropped a name: Ogata Kuru, one of the legendary 4 pillars serving Kinoshita Raji, and a level 12 gold elementalist. That single title explained the carnage. The crowd instantly realized why the situation was hopeless. Oga gripped one of the defeated students by the throat, barking a warning to the mob. He vowed he wouldn't forgive a single soul who dared step on the stage without Raji's green light. Anyone who resisted would end up face down in the dirt, just like the bodies already littering the floor. The onlookers watched, paralyzed with fear, as Takeru hoisted the struggling blonde kid into the air. Beside him, the blue-haired victim lay cold and unconscious. Oga roared that nobody should even dream of playing hero. His suit-clad goons just laughed from the sidelines. One sneered, telling Oga to chill. The trash was watching after all. Another joked that if he kept beating up weaklings, a teacher might actually hear about it. Their cruel cackles filled the silence. Oga just scoffed. With a casual flick of his wrist, he tossed the blonde student aside like garbage. The injured kid plummeted face first toward the concrete. But the impact never came. Itsuki swooped in, catching him mid-fall. Blood dripped from the victim's nose, staining Itsuki's arms as the body went limp. Whispers exploded through the bystanders. Who is the new guy, and why didn't he listen? When everyone warned him to stay back, panic set in a level 0 going against Oga. That's a guaranteed funeral. Eyes shifted to Choa. Someone muttered that the stunning girl next to him looked vaguely famous. Meanwhile, Oga locked eyes with Itsuki, death glare engaged. He bellowed that the blockade stood firm, no permission, no entry. He warned that unless Itsuki wanted a hospital bed next to the unconscious kid, he needed to walk away. Now, Itsuki dipped his head, voice deadly calm. So, the only way onto the stage is to go through him. Understood. Beside him, Choa raised a hand to dial the North District. For Administrator, this brutality was illegal, but Itsuki cut her off. His eyes flared with a piercing electric blue light. Not necessary. He recited his master's code. Never hesitate to do what you believe is right. He turned to Choa, giving a simple command. He told her to heal the wounded. Then he pivoted to Oga. As Itsuki took that first step forward, Oga's internal radar pinged. Who is this guy? A system interface materialized next to Itsuki, displaying his data. Tenma Itsuki, race human, level 0, fixed job order breaker, gift special grade, skill redacted, status redacted. Despite the trash stats, the kid stood like a mountain, zero fear in his eyes. Oga frowned. Did a rare job give him this unearned confidence? Then a weird sensation hit him. A heavy pressure crushed the air despite the massive level gap. Oga shook it off. Rare job or not, he was 12 levels superior. That stat gap was a mathematical impossibility to overcome. Oga's own status window popped, flexing his specs. Oga Takeru, human, level 12. Job elementalist, gift grade 2. Metallization active. Defense boosted by 50% while stationary. Skill metallization, status check, attack 110, agility 100, defense 250, magic 145, total stats 605. But as Oga read his own hype, his expression shattered. In the reflection of his own pupil, he saw a blur rushing him at god-tier velocity. In the blink of an eye, Itsuki's fist slammed into Oga's torso, the kinetic force sending a shockwave rippling through his frame. A clean hit. The onlookers froze cold sweat breaking out on their faces. One guy gasped that speed was glitched out. Was this kid seriously a level 0? Another admitted that, even at level 8, he couldn't track that kind of movement. But as the dust cleared, the reality hit. Itsuki's fist was smoking against Oga's forehead, which was now solid steel. Blocked. The metallization skill coated Oga's face in an impenetrable chrome layer. Itsuki recoiled, eyes narrowing as he registered the defense. Oga raised both hands, watching his limbs morph into polished, heavy steel. He smirked, praising the speed, but his voice was cold. Then bang, Oga countered with a ferocious lunge, roaring that Itsuki's attacks hit like a feather. The ground detonated beneath the impact, concrete shrapnel flying everywhere. Itsuki skidded back, mind racing. How do you crack a defense over level 10 with a surprise attack? He blurred into motion again, calculations complete. He needed more juice. Time to redline his agility with Thunderbreaker. Suddenly the system UI flashed. The screen displayed the anomaly Tenma Itsuki, human, level 0. The order breaker had arrived. The Nirvana gift flares to life, a total cheat code ability. The interface scrolls through his arsenal. Over Mimesis, the S-Rank Thunderbreaker at level 1, Black Wall and Lotus Burst at level 2. Then the stats drop, attack agility, defense, magic, every single one, sitting at a clean 250, stacking up to a perfect 1000 total. Boom. A new window pops up. It pings a C-rank skill, nearby metallization. Over Mimesis instantly locks on, starting the download. The progress bar ticks to 1%. Itsuki drops into a crouch, eyes glued to his target. He runs the numbers. Is this guy a big enough threat to trigger the mimicry? He decides it's time to stop playing around and get real. The HUD flickers as analysis hits 5%. Itsuki scans. Ogawa's armored frame, the guy is basically a walking tank. Regular hits aren't going to scratch that chrome plating. He figures he has to target the soft spots, the exposed flesh. His sneaker grinds against the pavement as he coils his muscles to launch. But Oga just sneers and laughs, calling him a total scrub with zero power or speed, raising those shining hardened arms to crush him. Itsuki's gaze sharpens. Big mistake. This guy thinks Itsuki's earlier jog was his top speed. Wrong. His face stays ice cold, while arcs of blue lightning start dancing across his skin. The electricity crackles, wrapping him in a high-voltage shroud as he preps the engines. He cocks his fist, and right then he decides to crank the speed dial to max with Thunderbreaker. Across the arena, Oga's eyes bug out. As the sparks start flying, he screams, completely shook. How do you have the lightning element? Before his brain can even process it, Itsuki explodes forward, a blur of violent static. Itsuki announces he isn't, giving him a single second to armor up. He unleashes a barrage of blows on Oga. Dozens of blue system windows pop up everywhere, tracking the beatdown 25%, 59-66. The analysis meter is racing to keep up with the attacks. The crowd is losing their minds. One guy yells, "Yo, since when can he cross-class skills like that?" Another dude shakes his head, saying the movement is too fast to track. Someone else whispers that the level 0 kid might actually fold Oga. Oga is spiraling, struggling to keep up. Cold sweat drips down his face. As he realizes his defense window is closed, he grits his teeth, mind racing. How is a level 0 moving like a pro? Panic starts to set in as he admits the truth to himself. At this pace, he's gonna lose. Static electricity locks him down like a cage. He's paralyzed, can't even force a scream out. Pure terror takes over as he mentally screams for his crew to quit staring and jump in. As the lightning surges around him, Oga clenches his jaw. His face twists in desperation. He's backed into a corner with no options. He has to play his trump card. With a guttural roar, he rips his shirt off and unleashes a shockwave. Force ripples out from his core as he triggers his ultimate. Right in front of Itsuki, Oga goes full chrome, metallizing from head to toe instantly. Itsuki blinks, actually surprised. The guy managed to pull off a full-body transformation in one go. A glitchy window hovers nearby, C-rank skill metallization analysis at 88%. Oga looks down, eyes glowing like a demon. "Thanks, kid," he says. "Never nailed the full armor until you pushed me." He breaks it down. Metal parts boost defense by 50%, and his personal gift stacks another 50% if he stands his ground. With those buffs combined, his defense is clocking over 500. He flashes a sick, cruel grin at Itsuki. He says that he was planning to slice Itsuki in half, but as a thank you gift for the level up, he'll let him die quick. On the sidelines, the trainees are stunned into silence. One gasps, "Defense over 500 at level 12, that's impenetrable." Another admits they thought the level 0 newcomer had a shot. But this opponent is a straight-up monster. Suddenly, that blue aura flares around Itsuki again. He stares ahead, calm as ever, and drops a theory. "If I'm right, going full metal jacket burns a massive amount of mana." The screen pings analysis, reaching 98%. Itsuki continues, "If you dumped all your stats into defense, your magic tank must be empty." The bar ticks up again, hitting 99%. Oga growls, denying it, yelling that Itsuki is talking trash. But deep down, he's rattled. Is this kid really level 0? His intuition is terrifyingly sharp. Itsuki keeps that chill smile. "Don't worry, I won't bore you with a stall tactic to drain your mana. I'm ending this right now." The blue screen pulses violently. Analysis. Complete 100%. High above, a massive spectral blue lotus starts to unfurl. Choha watches from the shadows, whispering, "There it is." The lotus blooms. High overhead, a neon blue aura burst open, taking the shape of a massive lotus. Choha watched it unfurl, whispering that the lotus was back in play. The crowd froze, realizing Itsuki wasn't done evolving yet. A massive, ethereal lotus began to bloom around him, radiating pure power. "No shot, that's a level 0 skill," one spectator muttered, eyeing the display. Another questioned how pretty flowers were supposed to take down a tank like Oga. Since it looked 0% offensive, nobody saw the HUD pop up for Itsuki. Metallization analysis complete. Boom. New ability unlocked, Clear Orb. The system window flashed the details for level 1. Active effect launches a perfect sphere on a fixed trajectory. The catch: it moves at a sluggish 1 meter per second. But here's the kicker: it pierces through any enemy, totally ignoring defense stats. Plus, there was a passive effect. Every time he defeats an enemy with higher defense than himself, the skill gets buffed. Itsuki did the math. This thing was a one-hit KO machine. If it connected, it would deal catastrophic damage. The only issue was the velocity. At 1 meter per second, a toddler could outrun it. Any normal fighter would easily dodge, making timing critical. But then Itsuki looked at Oga, the human sandbag who refused to move, against a target that arrogant 0 timing required. Itsuki's eyes flashed a neon blue as he locked onto his opponent. He announced cold and clear, "That absolute defense you're so proud of, I'm about to shatter it into dust." System Clear Orb, level 1, acquired. A wave of energy washed over him, +10 to all stats, debuffs purged, and HP fully restored. The numbers climbed instantly. Attack agility, defense magic, everything jumped from 250 to 260. His total stats surged from 1000 to 1040. The giant blue lotus petals peeled open completely, revealing Itsuki, standing dead center. He raised a hand pointing a single finger at Oga. A miniature lotus materialized at his fingertip. As the flower spun and bloomed, Itsuki taunted, "Go ahead, try to dodge this." System clear orb activated. The students gasped, staring at the glowing sphere. Whispers swept through the stands like wildfire. "I've never seen a kit like that," one student admitted. Another whispered, "That's the Order Breaker class, the wildest mystery job of the four." Skeptics weren't buying it, questioning if a level 0 scrub could actually scratch the defense of a level 12 specialist. But someone pointed at Itsuki's face. "Look at that smirk. He knows something we don't. That technique has to be god tier." The mini lotus unraveled, releasing a pitch-black orb. It started floating forward, scattering prismatic light as it drifted through the air. The arena went silent, watching the slow-motion projectile. Confusion broke the silence. "Bro, are you for real?" one guy scoffed. "It's just a tiny marble moving at snail speed." "What a letdown," another groaned. Oga burst out laughing, looking at the attack with pure contempt. "You think this pebble can move me? Or cancel my gift? You're so naive." Oga stepped into the attack like a tank. "Is this your trump card?" The orb kept drifting closer. Oga glared, shouting, "You're gonna die," screaming, "You pathetic loser." He was brimming with confidence, right until the moment of impact. His grin vanished instantly. Oga's eyes bulged as the black orb didn't bounce off it, sank right into his metal-coated skin. Crack. A split second later, a geyser of blood erupted from the contact point. Oga shrieked in pure agony. The clear orb tore through him like a hot knife through butter, severing his arm cleanly at the bicep. He hit the dirt. Clutching the bloody stump, he wailed desperately about his missing arm. Itsuki strolled over, looking bored. "I literally told you to dodge," Itsuki stated flatly. "Be glad you're human. I only aimed for the arm. If you were a disaster beast, that would have gone straight through your neck." Itsuki shifted his gaze to Oga's frozen lackeys. "Quit gawking and get him to the ER, he ordered. "Or are you guys deaf?" When they hesitated, Itsuki's eyes turned icy. "I said, get lost." That woke them up. The guards scrambled to drag Oga away, leaving a trail of blood dripping onto their expensive suits. One guard looked ready to puke, while another wiped cold sweat from his forehead. The shock wore off and the crowd erupted into cheers. Choha beamed, watching her classmates flip from haters to fans. "He actually won," someone screamed. "That was insane. Serve that bully right." Immediately clout chasers swarmed Itsuki. "Yo, squad up with us," one guy begged. "We can speed run the mission with 3 people. Another student cut in. "No way, join my team. With a 2-man cell. You'll stack way more XP." They started bickering. "Are you crazy? You want to hit the flaming rock execution ground?" With just 3 people, the mobs inside there have defense stats as high as Oga's. "We've got a pocket healer," the first guy shouted. "Infinite mana for your orbs." Itsuki tuned them out, staring into the distance. Mobs with defense equal to Oga, a sinister smile touched his lips. Since Clear Orb's speed increased every time he crushed a tanky enemy, he knew exactly what to do. It was grinding time. Inside the holding area, the 2 guys were practically vibrating with anticipation, begging Itsuki to drop the name of the lucky team he'd be carrying today. Itsuki kept his eyes down, his voice barely a whisper but hitting like a sledgehammer as he announced he was riding solo. The room instantly froze in pure shock. One dude completely lost it, screaming that taking on a level 15 advanced stage alone was basically a suicide mission. His buddy chimed in, accusing Itsuki of letting that win against Oga go to his head, and with that, the salty duo turned their backs and walked off. One of them muttered that, yeah, Itsuki was strong, but there's a fine line between confidence and a death wish, while the other sneered that they clearly weren't on his level anyway. They suggested he go find some other suckers to impress, just as Choha stepped into the frame, keeping her cool amidst the drama. Dropping some critical lore, she explained that every disaster beast in this zone had tank-level defenses just like Oga, acknowledging that she knew he had a strat to handle it. But the real question was his monopool. Would his gas tank run empty mid-fight? Itsuki hit her with a smirk full of main character energy and told her to chill. He'd be totally fine, and hearing that confidence, Choha's face instantly flushed, a bright crimson snapping back that she definitely wasn't worried about him. Scrambling for an excuse, she claimed she only asked because her dad would drag her if Itsuki ended up getting deleted on her watch. Spinning on her heel, she headed off to patch up the wounded, tossing back a comment that he could go ahead and do whatever he wanted. But before dipping, she pushed up her glasses and dropped one final tip. The Stone Tribe mobs were brainless, but they hunted in massive packs. Warning him to watch his mana consumption, she left him to it. Itsuki stepped up to the glowing gate, raising a hand as the device let out a crisp electronic beep. The system recognized his biosignature, immediately projecting a holographic display. Entry approved for awakened Tenma Itsuki. Stepping into the dungeon, Itsuki's gaze sharpened into predator mode. muttering that the spawn rate was way higher than he anticipated. Straight ahead, the rocky canyon was absolutely crawling with countless stone beasts, wall-to-wall enemies blocking his path. These things were walking tanks built from solid boulders, with glowing yellow eyes, and the ground literally quake under their feet as they stampeded toward him. Analyzing the battlefield, Itsuki realized the mobs in this advanced stage weren't just numerous. Their stats were buffed way beyond the earlier levels. A blue system interface popped up, locking onto a stone statue. It was a level 9 stone tribe unit, with a broken passive skill that converted all magic power straight into defense, and one was already barreling toward him. Itsuki didn't flinch, holding out his purple orb and calmly stating this was the perfect field test for his new gear. He needed to see if these guys triggered the clear orb's passive conditions, and instantly, a violent violet aura exploded outward. Swirling with layers of neon blue and purple energy, the orb powered up just as the massive beast crashed through the dust cloud. Itsuki raised a hand, the orb hovering over his palm like a miniature star pulsing with lethal light. Locking onto the incoming monster, the orb launched instantly, a purple streak of light drilling clean through the beast's rocky armor. A massive exit wound blew out the back of the creature, and Itsuki walked coolly through the fading particles as the victory screen popped up. The notification flashed, stone statue level 9 defeated, but the real prize was the line right underneath it. Clear orb flight velocity buffed by 100%. Itsuki clocked the message and gave a satisfied nod, thinking. This was playing out exactly according to his calculations, even as more stone beasts roared and spawned in front of him. Hundreds of yellow eyes lit up the shadowy cliffside, but Itsuki stood in the center of the kill zone without breaking a sweat. Purple light danced across his silhouette. Arcs of lightning began to crackle around him, and his eyes shifted to a menacing crimson glow. Staring down the horde, he declared that these slow, low-agility tanks were basically free XP for the clear orb, and the system windows started spamming. It was a massacre. Stone statue level 9, defeated speed increased 100% over and over as rubble rained down like hail. Amidst the flood of notifications, a status window hovered over his head, showing his mana bar sitting at 110 out of 160. Standing atop a literal mountain of pulverized enemies, he surveyed the battlefield and ran the numbers. Firing the clear orb, burned 50 magic points, a pop, meaning he was down to his last 2 shots before running dry. Suddenly, the earth rumbled beneath him. 2 colossal stone beasts were rushing him simultaneously, and his radar picked up 3 hostiles remaining. That count included a hidden boss that was still lurking in the shadows. Seeing the double charge, he knew exactly how to play this. The play was simple. He had to bag a double kill with a single cast. Itsuki dropped into a crouch, channeling the swirling purple energy. Launching himself like a rocket, Itsuki vacated his position and soared high into the air. Bait taken, the 2 beasts collided with catastrophic force, smashing into each other and sending a shockwave of dust and debris everywhere. Itsuki dove back into the fray, shouting, now, as he cut through the smoke, his eyes burning blood red. Fighting through the turbulence, a savage grin spread across his face as he screamed, take this, and primed the final strike. The purple orb fired downward at breakneck speed, a beam of pure destruction tearing through the sky. Hovering above the impact zone, Itsuki watched as a cascade of glowing system windows erupted one after another. Level 9, stone statue obliterated. Clear orb flight speed just spiked by 100%. Itsuki hits the deck totally spent. He sprawled out on the jagged floor, chest-heaving sweat pouring down his face like a waterfall. He groans, realizing how brutal that mana burnout felt. He's praying for a mana regen skill to drop like seriously. Dragging himself into a seated position, he locks eyes with the holographic screen glowing in front of him. He mutters, 5 meters per second, now I can actually smoke those runners. The system window flexes the skill's specs. Clear orb level 1 fires a perfect sphere on a locked trajectory. The projectile rips through the air at 5 meters, ignoring armor and piercing everything in its path. The passive buff, every time. You wreck an enemy with higher defense, using the orb flight speed jumps another 100%. Currently boosted 500%. While he's geeking out over the stats, the ground suddenly goes nuclear. A massive stone fist slams down with a deafening crash right next to him. Itsuki whips his head up in shock as the gargantuan limb craters the earth, sending a shockwave of dust and debris flying everywhere. A colossal stone giant lumbers into view, the earth shaking under its weight as dust clouds swirl around its massive frame. A system window blips red, flagging a B-rank skill and scanning the beast. Giant Stone Man, 2-8 level, 15. Stone Tribe, grade 2. Unique trait converts all mana into pure defense. Attack 239. Agility, 60. Defense, 478. Magic, 0. Total threat, 777. Itsuki stares up at the towering monstrosity, gasping, damn, that thing is huge. Static crackles around him as a new prompt flashes Thunderbreaker engaged. Agility boost 50%. Surging with electric blue energy, he blurs toward the giant. Skimming beneath the monster's colossal bulk, he's running the math. Can one direct hit from the clear orb end this? He eyes the giant skull, thinking a headshot might be the play. Lightning leaves a trail behind him. As he scales the monster's craggy body, he finds the perfect opening and blasts a clear orb straight for the dome. But wait, Itsuki's stomach drops. He realizes the orb is way too small, even with the armor piercing. It's gonna be a mosquito bite. The stone titan swings a mountain of an arm, the wind pressure alone screaming through the air. Itsuki launches himself upward, wrapped in a vortex of light and energy, desperate to dodge the blow. His eyes bulge when he realizes he's a sitting duck mid-air. Clenching his teeth, he knows he's screwed. He's trapped. A system window flares as obsidian spikes lock around his arm. Black wall activates just as the giant's fist connects. Itsuki is launched into the cliffside with a sickening boom, burying him in a cloud of rock dust. As the haze clears, he's wedged deep into the stone wall. Gasping for air, he mutters that this tank is way more cracked than he thought. Another screen flickers to life. B. Rank skill detected gigantification. Mimesis's active progression at 1%. Seeing that Itsuki flashes a cocky smirk, the monster's juicing its size with a skill. Too easy, he quips. He grabs a hold of the giant's rocky hide with one hand, ready to launch his counterattack. Meanwhile, back at base, one of Kinoshita Raiji's goons gets the intel on Oga's situation and turns pale. Behind him, Raiji, decked out in a golden vest, sits completely unfazed. He narrows his eyes and tells his subordinate to kill the noise. The guy in the suit bows, trembling, apologizing for the sudden news. Raiji asks what the hell happened. The guy blurts out that someone absolutely wrecked Oga and stormed the stage. Hearing that, Raiji snaps his teeth, gritting together so hard, he shatters the wine glass in his grip. He demands to know what Oga was doing. He reminds himself that Oga's whole brand was that no one under level 30 could even scratch his defense. He wonders if some high-level awakened crashed the party, but his guy quickly clarifies that, with the surge in descending monuments, every awakened over level 30 is tied up dealing with that mess, and couldn't possibly be here. He adds that the current crop at the Flaming Rock execution ground is basically just a bunch of level 10 scrubs. Raiji roars that there's no way a level 10 could take down Oga. His guard looks down, face grim, and says if given a moment, he can dig up the full report. Raiji adjusts his vest and tie, scoffing that they don't need intel. Even if it is a level 30, he's already here, so what does it matter? He notes that the Flaming Rock execution ground is infamous for those stubborn disaster beasts that clog everything up. He figures if they move now, they'll get there just in time. His guards, however, warn that since the threat is a wild card, they should play it safe. At that, Raiji's expression turns ice cold. His glasses glint with a sharp, dangerous light. Konosuke snapped at the guard, reminding him he'd already dropped the location, and he wasn't about to repeat himself for free. The guard froze up, sweating bullets, and managed a shaky yes. Konosuke threw a fist in the air, swearing he'd make them regret messing with the Konosuke family. Meanwhile, deep in the dungeon, a blue energy lotus exploded around Itsuki. A holo screen flashed behind him, 100%. Itsuki grinned at the sight. No more scurrying around like a rat in a maze for him. He stood tall on the massive stone beast, a blazing blue lotus branded right on the monster's forehead. Suddenly, a system notification popped up in midair. B rank skill, gigantification analysis complete. Itsuki blinked at the window. Wait, he didn't unlock a new skill. Something weirder just happened. His clear orb just evolved to level 2. He immediately checked the patch notes for the new effects. Fresh windows cascaded down, breaking down the buffs. Clear orb level 2. Launches a flawless sphere at 5 meters per second. Pierces everything. 0 defense mitigation. New feature after activation. You can burn extra mana to supersize the orb. Passive buff every time. You crush an enemy with higher defense than yours using clear orb flight speed. Jumps by 200%. Itsuki's jaw dropped. The passive boost went from 100 to a staggering 200%. But the real game changer, he could finally control the size of the attack. Mana swirled around him as the blue lotus bloomed. Itsuki wasted no time, he had to test drive this upgrade right now. Aura flared around his body as the system confirmed it. Clear orb, level 2, acquired. Plus 20 to all stats. Debuffs wiped. HP fully restored. A new status screen flashed into view. Attack climbed from 260 to 280. Agility and defense both hit 280. Itsuki leaped high above the stone giant, summoning a dark pulsing flower brimming with chaotic energy. He realized he was dumping his entire mana pool to max out the orb size. Beneath him, the beast glared up, its yellow eyes burning as stress fractures of light spiderwebbed across its rocky hide. Itsuki roared, screaming at the beast to eat the biggest clear orb he had. The giant petals unfurled, launching the massive projectile. The colossal sphere crashed down, drilling straight through the monster's stone torso. As Itsuki poured everything into the blast, as the dust settled, he lowered his hand, a satisfied grin on his face. He chuckled to himself, wondering if he maybe went a little overboard. A side panel. confirmed he was tapped out mana 0 out of 280. As the stone golem crumbled, the victory screen flashed giant stone man level 15 eliminated. Bonus clear orb flight speed boosted by 200%. Surrounded by falling rubble, Itsuki surveyed the carnage. Dumping all his mana created an absolute monster of an orb. He analyzed the stats coolly. Flight speed hit 7 meters per second. He figured that, if he cleared this stage 2 more times, this thing would hit as fast as a speeding car. Suddenly, the skill info refreshed. Clear orb level 2 active fires a sphere on a locked trajectory. Speed 7 meters per second, penetrates all targets, defense ignored. Once active, you can pump more mana to expand the radius. Passive check defeat a tankier enemy. With clear orb and speed ramps up by 200%. Current total boost, a massive 700%. Clutching a glowing green loot crystal, Itsuki admitted he'd been sleeping on these passives. But he finally saw how broken they actually were. Dust swirled around his boots as he moved on, considering another skill synergy. Lotus Burst's passive expands skill range. That means Clear Orb's reach should grow right along with it. He pulled up the Lotus Burst specs, defeat any living creature level 1 or higher, and skill range ticks up by 1%. Itsuki smirked at the floating interface. The possibilities were wild. If he kept stacking that Lotus Burst passive, he could be sniping disaster-class beasts from miles away, maybe tens of miles. Back outside, the dungeon scoreboard lit up neon green. Challenge status success. Stage level 15. Challenger Tenma Itsuki. Clear time 3 minutes and 1 second. The stage clear leaderboard flickered with a new update, sending a shockwave through the gathered crowd. One guy screamed, completely losing it, hollering that 3 minutes and 1 second was physically impossible. Another dude chimed in, swearing that even a full 5-person squad takes over 10 minutes to clear this. Whispers started circulating, did Itsuki one-shot every single disaster beast? Someone else checked the data, realizing he didn't just win, he completely shattered Toujin's legendary record of 3 minutes and 19 seconds. The crowd muttered in fear, asking what kind of freak monster this guy actually was. Heads snapped toward the gate as a shout rang out, he's exiting the dungeon. The murmurs swelled into a roar. A skeptic yelled out, asking why the guy is still stuck at level 0, is the system glitching? Then they saw him. Not a scratch on him, just a bit of dust. It was too clean. They refused to believe he actually ran the dungeon. That's when Choa, decked out in her battle armor, stepped up with a beaming smile, a radiant green butterfly dancing around her. She was thrilled to see him walk out of that hellhole without a single bruise, for the second time casually crushing Jin's record yet again. She confessed that he never failed to blow her mind, then pushed her glasses up the bridge of her nose, trying to regain composure. As she noted, the run ended way faster than anticipated. Itsuki just shrugged, keeping it low-key. He claimed the disaster beasts in there had trash defense stats, so wiping the floor with them was a total breeze. The luminous butterfly drifted right in front of Itsuki's face. He blinked, genuinely surprised, and asked what the deal was with the glowing bug. Choa broke it down calmly. She revealed her class, Shikigami User, and introduced the spirit as her personal summon. Itsuki watched intently as the creature fluttered near his fingertips. He whispered the name Tamachu, admitting he'd never actually laid eyes on a Shikigami before. It was mesmerizing. His curiosity piqued. He turned to Choa and asked for a crash course on the different awakened job classes. That threw her off. She looked at him sideways, wondering how he could be so clueless about the basics but launched into lecture mode anyway. She explained that the system splits jobs into 4 major archetypes, and technically, he should have already run into 3 of them by now. Raising a finger to count, she started with the most common one, the Elementalist. These guys manipulate the 7 core elements: fire, water, wood, metal, earth, wind, and lightning. She noted that Elementalists make up the bulk of the awakened population, and they also boast the highest base combat stats right out of the gate. She pointed out that his classmate with the electric attacks fit this bill, as did that hulking iron-skinned tank of a man they dealt with earlier, both classic Elementalists. Next up, she introduced the second category, the Shikigami User. These casters summon spirits that are bound by absolute loyalty to their master. A blue holographic interface popped up next to the butterfly, Tamachu. Leaf rank, level 15. Skill, undisclosed. Status was also hidden. Choa explained that a Shikigami is bonded to its user from birth. Suddenly, another status window materialized, displaying her profile, Izumi Choa, human, level 6. Job Shikigami user, gift grade 2, undisclosed. Her Shikigami and status details remained redacted. Wrapping up the brief, she asked if he was tracking so far. Itsuki glanced between the spirit and the girl, asking bluntly why her level was lower than her own pet's. He even questioned if she was actually a pro. The shade hit Choa like a physical blow. She thought to herself, does this guy have zero filter? Rubbing her temples in exhaustion, she explained that Shikigami also soak up XP independently, allowing them to level up fast. Because of that mechanic, the summon is almost always higher level than the summoner. Itsuki's vibe shifted instantly. A shadow cast over half his face, and his eyes took on a cold, predatory glow. He deadpanned. So if you're fighting a user, it's strictly optimal to ignore the beast and just kill the human. Choa's eyes went wide. She could feel that dark, suffocating aura leaking out of him again, and wondered what kind of darkness this guy was hiding. Just as quickly, Itsuki returned to normal, asking, "What's next?" and reminding her she'd only covered 2 classes. Choa shook off the chill, straightened her posture, and introduced the third job, the most enigmatic class in existence. Very little intel exists on them. She pointed a finger squarely at Itsuki's chest. "Your job is the Order Breaker." Itsuki stayed silent, letting her continue. She explained the mystery stems from the fact that no 2 Order Breakers are alike. It ranges from his specific blue lotus flower technique to wild variations. Some Order Breakers can manipulate their size at will, spawn infinite shadow clones, or even stretch their limbs, exactly like rubber. Then she drew the line between Order Breakers and Standard Awakened. Normal classes operate with skills, categorized from rank C up to rank S. But Order Breakers, they exclusively wield Z-rank skills, anomalies that exist completely outside the governing system. Choa emphasized that this makes Order Breakers a different breed, coveted for their rule-defying powers. But she dropped a warning: if an Order Breaker's toolkit gets leaked to the enemy, their ace in the hole is gone. That's exactly why her dad chewed her out earlier for prying into his abilities. She locked eyes with him, her gaze intense. To her, he wasn't just breaking the rules, he was a total system glitch, an anomaly even among the elite outliers. Her analysis was terrifyingly sharp. She clocked him using at least 3 distinct abilities, 2 of which were supposedly exclusive to high-tier elementalists. Itsuki shifted his weight sweat, forming on his brow. Without his teacher around to run interference, her deductions were hitting a little too close to home. If she kept digging, his cover was blown. Desperate for a distraction, he pivoted hard, asking about that mysterious final class she mentioned earlier. Never seen that one in the guides, he pressed. Choha didn't take the bait. Her face went poker neutral, completely unreadable. "You want answers, survive at first," she teased. "Consider that the penalty for keeping so many secrets from me." Checkmate. Itsuki let out a low, defeated breath. "Fair enough," he muttered. As she turned to leave, she threw back a reminder. The students he risked everything for were officially in the clear. "So, what's the play now?" she asked. Itsuki didn't hesitate, thinking of grinding this stage a few more times. Choha whipped her head around, looking at him like he was crazy. "You really are clueless, aren't you?" she sighed. "Dungeons have cooldowns. And this one, it's on a massive timer. You're locked out for at least 2 days. Itsuki's eyes went wide. Wait, dungeon fatigue was a real mechanic here. The realization hit him. That is why that jerk Kinoshita locked down specific hunting grounds. It was all about resource management. He crunched the numbers instantly. If he couldn't farm XP for his clear orb passive, he needed a plan B. Time to max out Lotus Burst instead. He faced Choha again. Is there a zone swarming with mobs? Like a disaster beast infestation? Choha tapped her chin, scrolling through her mental map of the danger zones. A smirk curled her lips. "I've got just the spot," she warned him. "The enemies aren't strong individually, but there's an endless ocean of them. Welcome to the Locust Wasteland. We are talking at least 100 hostiles minimum." It was a swarm of insectoid nightmares. Most Awakened took one look at the sheer volume and noped right out of there. Her expression hardened. "You sure about this? Without wide-range attacks, you are basically walking into a meat grinder." She meant AoE area of effect. Unless you could wipe out a grid instantly, the numbers would overwhelm you. "I'm going," Itsuki said, voice steady. He smirked internally. She hadn't seen his full deck yet. She had no idea he was packing a nuke like Lotus Burst. Choha gaped at him. "Are you serious? You are going to get swarmed." "Relax." Itsuki cut in cool as ice. "I've got this handled." The eavesdropping crowd lost it. "Is that kid suicidal?" one hunter gasped. "The Locust Wasteland solo. He is either fearless or brain dead," another whispered. Then the tone shifted. "Yo, if Kinoshita hears Oga is making moves, he is gonna show up for sure." Panic set in. The crowd started scattering like roaches. "Let's bounce before we get caught in the blast zone." Minutes later, the heavy atmosphere signaled the arrival of the main villain, Kinoshita Reiji. He scanned the clearing. Dead silence. "Where are the rats?" he demanded. "Why is this place a ghost town?" The suited tank behind him checked his comms. "Sir, the target. He has already moved on." Kinoshita froze. "Excuse me. It has barely been 30 minutes. You are telling me he speedran the Flaming Rock execution ground?" "It defies logic, sir," the bodyguard stammered, "but the data matches." Kinoshita's jaw tightened until it popped. "He is mocking me," he hissed. "This nobody is playing games with me." If he used skills, the mana signature is still fresh. He barked an order. "Get the hound on the line. Now, have it pick up the scent. I want this trash found immediately." His eyes burned with malice. "And bring him in breathing." I'm going to personally teach him the definition of hell. Meanwhile, miles away, in a grimy, mech-littered alleyway, a shadow figure pressed flat against the rusted metal chest, heaving. Panic was rewriting his entire worldview. Why did he take this contract? I didn't sign up for this, he gibbered. Kinoshida's goon. He is a monster. Greed had nearly cost him his life. The assassin slid down the wall, legs turning to jelly, trembling uncontrollably. If I hadn't popped Earth Escape Frame 1, I would be paced right now. Cold sweat drenched his mask. He risked a glance around the corner. Okay, I lost him. I am safe. Famous last words. His pupils shrank to pinpricks. Out of the darkness, a nightmare materialized. Glowing crimson eyes locked onto him, massive jaws unhinged. Before his brain could signal run, bam, he was pinned gravel digging into his back fangs inches from his jugular. He gagged on fear. Then a voice cut through the terror, smooth, calm, and cold. A figure stepped into the moonlight, looking down like a king at a peasant. Heal, death. Ease up, the stranger commanded. Our friend here looks like he wants to spill his guts. The monstrous wolf shifted its weight, easing off the guy pinned underneath. The victim was totally wrecked, sprawling in the dirt, blood painting his face. Voice shaking like a leaf, he stammered out a desperate question. How did they track him down? Looming over him. The long-haired figure in the trench coat didn't blink. He just pointed to his beast death, explaining it had a nose for one specific thing. The monster tracked the rod of mortality clinging to guys like him. This was the legendary Hound Konosuke, the one Reiji had hyped up, his real name Charles. He sauntered forward, tipping his hat with chilling swagger. He dropped the bombshell, death smells the end coming off you. Pure panic hit the guy. He started groveling, sobbing and begging for mercy. Charles just peered down with an icy smirk. Tough break, pal, he mused. Mr. Kinoshita would be pissed. Then he dropped the kicker. Death hadn't tasted fresh meat in ages. Charles's eyes flashed a demonic red. He snapped a command to the beast, dinner time. The shadowy wolf pounced, jaws unhinged and fangs gleaming, letting out a bone-chilling roar. Seconds later, the guy was gone. Crunch. The wolf trotted back to the trenchcoat guy's side. Charles looked over, totally unfazed, noting the beast finally leveled up. A holographic blue system window popped up, scrolling the stats. Death Hound Van Helsing, level 16. Skill Death, Smell C rank. Scans the zone for magic traces, and pinpoints the source. Second skill, Respawn Desire B rank. If the Shikigami gets wiped, cooldown is slashed way down. Stats, Attack 250, Agility 250, Magic 150. Suddenly, Charles's phone buzzed in his pocket. He checked the ID and slid to answer. He reported the job was done. But as the voice on the other end spoke, Charles's face shifted. Oga got wrecked, he asked, genuinely surprised. Someone actually hit that stubborn ogre's weak spot. Roger that. He hung up, turning his attention back to the wolf. He signaled the beast. New target acquired. Let's roll. Cut to a while later. Out in the locust wasteland, golden fields stretched forever with a weird dome structure breaking the horizon. Itsuki and Choha hiked down a dirt trail. Itsuki eyed the building. This is the spot. He scanned the infinite waves of grain, skeptical that a swarm of bugs could exist in such a chill, peaceful vibe. Choha kept her cool stride. Disaster beasts are smart, she lectured. They pick maps that buff their stats when they invade. That's why reading the terrain to guess the monster type is Awakening 101. Itsuki nodded, soaking it in. As they got closer to the entrance, he realized it was abandoned, no reception, nothing. Choha facepalmed, explaining that this zone was redlined. The difficulty was so insane it was slated for total demolition. Itsuki looked confused. He compared it to the Flaming Rock execution ground, pointing out this stage was technically under level 13. Why the nuclear option? Choha broke it down. Normal dungeons, you can bail if you're losing. But here, the aggro levels are broken, and the mob density is a nightmare. They scanned the perimeter, and Choha laid out the stakes. You slip up for 1 second, and you're swarmed. Thousands of them. She turned to him gravely. They'll strip the meat right off your bones. Hearing the horror story, Itsuki just smirked. Tons of mobs, perfect. His twisted excitement made Choha stare at him like he was crazy. You got a death wish, she snapped. He shrugged, cool as ice. I'm not planning on dying. To bug bites today. He stepped up to the glowing portal. Choha watched his back, noticing his swagger. He wasn't scared. She had to remind herself. This was his call. She dropped all the knowledge she could. Sighing, she let it go. Whatever happens in there is on him. But then she froze. A look of pure dread hit her. Oh no, she forgot one tiny massive detail. The mobs inside have infinite respawn until the boss is dead. Panic mode activated. She had to dive in and warn him. But before she could move, a noise came from behind. She whipped around, face freezing in terror. A shadow loomed right behind her, tall, rocking a fedora and staring daggers with glowing red eyes. Beside a monstrous hound, a man stares daggers at her, his lips curling into a frigid smile as he reveals he's on a manhunt. Meanwhile, Itsuki steps into the instant zone, boots crunching on a ravaged field of dirt and crushed crops. Scanning the wreckage, he mutters about the absolute mess, before clapping his hands, radiating pure confidence. He taunts the invisible horde, telling the pests to rise and shine. The exterminator has arrived. A solitary scarecrow looms over the parched, cracked earth, buzzing with a cloud of tiny insects. Itsuki sizes up the scene, realizing these trash mobs are pitifully low level. But that's perfect. They meet the criteria for Lotus Burst. Suddenly, blue system windows start popping off. Evil, Locust, number 2, 1231, Insect Tribe, level 1, Gift 0, Status hidden. A few level 2s are mixed in, but the real show is the sky turning black as a massive swarm blots out the sun. Instead of panicking at the sheer numbers, he smirks. This density is exactly what he needs to grind. Flames erupt around his silhouette as he weaves a radiant lotus of pure energy between his palms. The logic is simple. The tighter they clump, the less mana he burns to wipe them out with Lotus Burst. Time to flatten the curve. The ground trembles as a literal tornado of locusts spirals around him. Waiting for the perfect density, he barks a single order. Now a crimson shockwave detonates in midair. System alerts flood his vision. Lotus Burst activated, followed immediately by a deafening boom. The kill feed goes crazy. Notification after notification flashes, confirming every evil locust obliterated. By the blast with each kill, juicing his skill range by another 1%. Level 1s, level 2s, it doesn't matter. They're all getting deleted. As the smoke lifts, Itsuki stands untouched. On the scorched earth, embers dancing around him, amidst a carpet of fried insect husks. Another pop-up hovers nearby, level 2 locust down, stacking yet another 1% range buff. New stats roll in, explaining the broken mechanics of Lotus Burst. Active burns mana for massive AoE damage. Within a 10.5 meter radius. Passive. Every kill on a valid target expands his range by 1%. Itsuki checks the math, dropping a quick comment on his farming efficiency. He just wiped 110 mobs, meaning he snagged a 110% range boost instantly. His AoE has already swelled to 10.5 meters. Not bad for a warm-up. He breaks down the strategy. Against fodder like this, spending 10% mana for 10% output is overkill, but sustainable. Factoring in regen, he's got enough juice in the tank for about 10 more nukes. If he maintains 100 kills per blast, he's looking at a 1000% range expansion. He glances at his mana bar, 252 out of 280. Man, he grumbles, this would be a breeze without cooldowns. But then the vibe shifts. He stares at his bracelet, confused. The stage clear notification is nowhere to be found. That's weird, he mutters, frowning as he realizes the mechanics aren't adding up. Suddenly, a red warning slams onto his HUD C-rank skill mother's will detected. Overmimesis is active analysis at 1%. Itsuki snaps his head up. One survivor. No, it's worse. Dust swirls as the swarm begins to regenerate and circle him. Watching the bugs rally, he realizes Mother's Will must be the boss monster's signature move. Locusts dive bomb him instantly. He leaps back, tanking the hits with the crystal armor encasing his arms. He admits it, he got cocky, assuming this zone was just a mob farm, with no boss encounter. Narrowing his eyes, he strategizes aloud. The good news, he can keep stacking his stats. By spamming Lotus Burst. The bad news, the boss is camping somewhere invisible. Energy surges, forming a glowing lotus in his hands once again, as he preps the skill. His face hardens. Plan B, exterminate the minions until the coward is forced to show itself. Boom. Another explosion rips through the field, shockwaves shattering the ground and vaporizing the horde. The system struggles to keep up, windows cascading down his view. Level 1, Level 2, all dust. And with every death, his kill box just gets bigger and bigger. System alerts blew up his vision, stacking non-stop until the Lotus Burst XP bar smashed through 220%. Boom. Level up. A fresh prompt flashed the stats. Lotus Burst is now level 2. It torched mana to nuke a 16-meter zone, scaling the damage based on how much juice he poured into it. Itsuki scanned the smoking wasteland, muttering about the range bump to 16 meters, calling the upgrade totally broken. But even after clapping 10 of these small fries, the boss was a no-show. Deep underground in a gnarly nest crawling with shadows, hordes of insectoid freaks started twitching. Wings buzzed like chainsaws as they swarmed a glowing cluster hidden in the dark. As locusts erupted from the cracked earth, a holographic pop-up hovered right in Itsuki's face, showing the analysis progress rising to 27%. His gaze snapped forward razor-sharp, muttering that they'd respawned already. Another screen pinged his stats, mana sitting at 232 out of 280. Mental math said he had enough juice to rip Lotus Burst 9 more times. Flames roared around his fist as he stepped up, declaring that no matter how many mobs spawned, he'd wreck every last one of them. Arms swinging through the fire, he screamed that he was wiping the board. A fiery nuke decimated the battlefield, and system notifications started chain popping like crazy, confirming that level 1 evil locusts were eliminated via Lotus Burst, and all skill ranges just buffed by 1%. Screens stacked endlessly, spamming the same win log. A blinding detonation tore up the floor. As Lotus Burst triggered again, flinging debris everywhere, a flashbang of light swept the stage, followed by that blue window flashing the same old news, Lotus Burst. Then another massive boom rocked the area, swallowing everything in a tsunami of yellow flames and rubble. The screen just kept chanting it, Lotus Burst. A fresh system panel popped up with the patch notes. It stated that Lotus Burst Level 2 now consumed mana to deal explosive damage in a 54.5-meter radius. Power was still tied to the mana burn. Below that, another panel broke down the passive buff. Every time the skill clapped a mob level 1 or higher, all skill ranges jumped by 1%. Current buff stack, plus 900, 90%. Insane. Itsuki sprinted through the burning hellscape, sweat dripping down his face. He side-eyed the glowing interface. He calculated that he'd wiped out massive waves 9 times, already expanding Lotus Bursts, range by a whopping 990%. Problem was, he was running on fumes, only enough juice for one last shot. Why do these things keep respawning? His mana gauge tanked to 52 out of 280. He looked up, the sky was blacking out with insect swarms. Frustrated, he muttered that this was endless. The swarm grew thicker overhead, but even after nuking everything, there was zero trace of the stage boss. He frowned, realizing the boss was ghosting him completely. He considered tactically retreating from the stage and coming back once the analysis was done. But while he weighed his options, the infinite swarm closed in. Itsuki's eyes narrowed as a thought hit him. He declared that running away like that was strictly for third-rate scrubs. Fire pooled in his hand, flames spiraling up his arm. With pure determination locked on his face, he stated that no matter how many disaster beasts spawned, he was sending every single one to the grave. A massive explosion bloomed like a fiery lotus, rippling shockwaves across the ground. As smoke curled around him, Itsuki steadied his stance, muttering that this attack. But before he could finish, the air choked with countless more insects. Swarms boxed him in, and realization hit hard that there were still more, and their numbers hadn't dropped an inch. A glowing system screen popped up, showing analysis progress at 91%. Itsuki's eyes went wide, brain scrambling to connect the dots. What the hell was happening? All the disaster beasts that spawned since Wave 1 were still stuck at level 1. Tiny bodies too, like they just hatched fresh from the egg. The pieces clicked. He realized the terrifying truth instantly. The boss's ability, infinite reproduction. A massive golden monstrosity, the Queen Locust, crouched in the shadows, machine-gunning glowing eggs from its abdomen. A system window tagged the beast, Queen Locust, Sumbro 379. Insect Tribe. Level 13. Grade 1, gift detected. This thing is spamming the battlefield with evil locust eggs. Skill name, Mother's Will. Itsuki snapped his gaze upward. Sweat carved paths through the grime on his face. If that queen could just spam print minions forever grinding down the small fry, was a total waste of stamina. He had to cut the head off the snake. His mana tank was running on fumes, but his eyes locked onto the translucent analysis bar hovering in the air, climbing. 98%. He ground his teeth together as the progress bar crawled. Ding. The final tick hit, and a shockwave of azure energy pulsed from the analysis sphere. Analysis, 100%. A crisp notification popped up. Mother's Will analysis complete. New skill acquired. Magic detection level 1. The description window expanded. The active effect. A standard mana drain to map out magic flow within a 100-meter radius. It would continuously burn through his reserves to keep that 100-meter sensory dome active. But here's the kicker, the passive effect. Thanks to his Lotus Burst synergy, the range exploded to 1100 meters, and the cherry on top, every single enemy pinged, would regen his mana by 10%. Itsuki's eyes went wide as he processed the broken mechanics. This wasn't just a radar. With a kill zone stretching over a kilometer, every mob he spotted became a walking mana potion. A wicked grin cut across his face. This passive was literally cheat-coded for this boss fight, farming those endless waves of trash mobs. That wasn't a burden anymore, it was infinite fuel. He tilted his head, eyes blazing with renewed swagger. Suddenly leaving the queen alive to spawn more fodder didn't seem like a problem. It sounded like the perfect grinding strategy. He glanced down, guilt flickering for a split second. He'd kept Choha waiting long enough. Time to speedrun this clear and get back to her. The blue system interface flashed again, confirming magic detection level 1 was locked in. Boom, stat boost. Every attribute jumped by 10 points. All debuffs cleansed. His injuries fully patched up. The numbers rolled up like a slot machine. His attack surged from 280 to 290. Agility, up from 280 to 290. Defense climbed from 280 to 290. Magic stat followed suit, hitting 290. His total power score skyrocketed from 1120 to 1160. Itsuki pressed a hand to his forehead, locking in. A vortex of aura spiraled around him as he triggered the new ability, focusing his mind. Magic detection online. Massive ripples of energy pulsed outward from his core, sweeping across the map like sonar pings on a dark ocean. The scan illuminated everything, traveling far into the distance, deep in the darkness. The massive golden insect boss snapped its head up, yellow eyes glowing as the energy wave washed over it. Gotcha. Itsuki's gaze sharpened instantly. He caught the reaction signal miles away. Slowly, deliberately, he raised two fingers, aiming straight into the abyss. That cocky smile was back. Dark, volatile energy began to swirl at his fingertips. Warping the very air around him, he queued up his clear orb. His voice cut through the chaos, steady and cold. He announced that hiding behind its children as meat shields was useless. The clear orb flared to life, fusing with the volatility of Lotus Burst. A blinding, lotus-shaped flare erupted, lighting up the entire battlefield. He declared the checkmate with the burst's passive amp and the orb's insane flight range. That strike was locked on zero chance of missing. A holographic window popped up, pinging the clear orb's range at a solid 120 meters. In a heartbeat, the orb tore through the air, streaking across the battlefield like a jagged line of purple lightning. The shockwave blasted the wind apart. Terrified, the Queen Locust recoiled, spreading her massive golden wings to bail out. Too slow. Itsuki had already speed-blitzed behind her, his body wreathed in crackling blue crystal armor. He loomed over her like a grim reaper. Blue electricity surged around him as he hovered above the Queen, staring daggers. He dropped one word: checkmate. With a deafening boom, he slammed the attack down, crushing the Queen with raw power and slicing her into confetti. The hive mind shattered immediately. Without their queen, the insect swamp spiraled into absolute chaos. Itsuki glared at the frenzied mob. Flames roared from his crystal-encased arm as he muttered a dark promise to send the rest of them straight to hell to meet their mama. One lotus burst later, the entire swarm dropped dead, littering the ground. Itsuki stood calm amidst the settling dust, scanning the carnage. His stats were going crazy. All skill ranges had buffed up by 1,210%. That lotus burst explosion, the blast radius was now sitting at a massive 65.5 meters, and the clear orb's flight distance had stretched to 131 meters. The system UI flashed, breaking down the level 2 lotus burst. It detailed the active skill-burning magic to nuke everything within a 65.5 meter diameter. Power output was tied to monoburn. But the passive, that was the real MVP. Every time Lotus Burst clapped a level 1 or higher enemy, all skill ranges stacked up by another 1%. The current total was a staggering plus 1,210%. Another ping confirmed the clear orb's new range of 131 meters. Itsuki checked the stats and cracked a satisfied grin. Calling it a solid haul, he crouched in the dust, twirling a green leaf in his hand. He was already plotting his next grind. Once the cooldown reset, he'd run it back and push that Lotus Burst passive until it hit 5 digits. As he headed for the exit portal, a notification flashed: new record achieved. The log read time elapsed 17 minutes and 7 seconds. He paused before the swirling blue gate. Itsuki glanced at the timer. 17 minutes. Choha was probably losing her mind with worry. He pictured her waiting outside. Even if he came back without a scratch, she'd probably put up that cold front again. But he knew the truth. She was soft-hearted and caring. Her inability to be honest with her feelings, kind of adorable actually. Stepping through the blue energy swirl, he waved casually. He started to say he was back and sorry for the wait. But the words died in his throat. His eyes went wide with pure horror. Choha was right there, battered and bleeding from the mouth. A man with glowing red eyes had her hoisted up by the collar like a rag doll. He glared down at Itsuki, his voice dripping with ice. He sneered, saying a solo clear like that could only mean one thing. Itsuki was the target Raiji had been hunting. Charles, tipping his wide-brimmed hat, sized Itsuki up with a calm, predatory look. Perfect timing, he drawled. He'd been trying to squeeze info out of Choha, but she kept her mouth shut. Even beaten to a pulp, she refused to talk. Charles admitted she had more guts than most guys he knew. Itsuki stepped forward, the air around him freezing over. He told Charles to get his filthy hands off her. The threat was simple: let her go right now, or he'd beat Charles within an inch of his life. Charles just threw his head back and laughed. He mocked Itsuki, telling the level 0 rookie to quit acting tough. But the laughter died instantly. Blue electricity exploded from Itsuki as he launched himself forward at breakneck speed. His eyes burned with a piercing red light as he closed the distance. Charles flinched, panic flashing across his face as he realized how fast Itsuki really was. He screamed for death. Before Itsuki could land the killing blow, a massive black beast lunged out of nowhere to intercept. Itsuki's lightning-infused fist slammed into the beast instead, sending a shockwave of sparks and force rippling out as the creature roared. As the monster blocked his path, a system window popped up, warning: B-rank Shikigami detected Deathhound. Another window overlaid his vision. Over mimesis activated. Analysis starting at 1%. The moment Itsuki saw the text, the pieces clicked into place. That dog was a Shikigami, meaning Hat Guy was a summoner type. The analysis bar kept climbing, hitting 12%. Charles narrowed his eyes, analyzing Itsuki's motion. No wasted energy, insane velocity. Now he knew why Oga got folded. That guy probably didn't even have a split second to activate Metal Eyes before getting blitzed. But Charles wasn't backing down. He smirked, confident with his death hound in front and a hostage in hand. Choha struggled weakly in his grip. Seeing her in pain, Itsuki screamed her name, his face twisting in desperate alarm. He stood his ground, but the situation was critical. He had the beast's snout in a death grip, but a split-second distraction cost him. Death ripped free, unleashing a bone-chilling roar. Crimson eyes glowing with bloodlust, the monster lunged, razor-sharp fangs bared. Charles just smirked, soaking in the chaos. He bragged that Death's jaw pressure could pulverize anyone with defense under 30. Best-case scenario, Itsuki was saying goodbye to that arm. But Charles's smug grin vanished instantly. His eyes bugged out as jet-black spikes suddenly erupted from Itsuki's body. Blocking the chomp effortlessly, Itsuki fired up his Lotus Orb skill, aiming a massive energy burst right at the beast. The orb launched from his palm, slamming into Death's skull with devastating force. It didn't just hit, it tore straight through bone, ripping out the core and flatlining the monster in a heartbeat. A blue system window popped up. Analysis progress was climbing fast. 77%. Standing over the fallen hound, Itsuki dropped some knowledge. Without a Shikigami, a summoner is basically a sitting duck. Charles stared, totally shook. Did this rookie seriously not know the basics? Shikigami don't stay dead. Thanks to the B-rank skill, Respawn Desire, this fight was far from over. The cooldown was practically zero. In a flash, Death respawned and blindsided Itsuki from the rear. Charles taunted him, "Get sloppy and your dog food." The beast charged again, maw gaping wide to snap him in half. But nope, magical detection waves pulsed out as Itsuki triggered his radar skill. He clocked that attack instantly. Moving at Mach speed, he countered effortlessly, keeping magic detection running 24/7 since he got it. Best decision ever. 89%. 91. Itsuki side-eyed Charles, who was still clutching Choa, and noted the analysis was wrapping up. It was crunch time. If the Blue Lotus manifested from over limit now, Charles might get suspicious. The bar hit 95%. Watching Itsuki roundhouse kick Death without even looking back, Charles started sweating bullets. The reality hit him hard. This guy was faster, stronger, and had detection hacks. Charles was officially panicking. Realizing a sneak attack was off the table, he yanked Choa closer, tightening his chokehold like a coward. Voice cracking with fear, he screamed that one more move would end Choa's life. Itsuki stood there, silent as a grave. He needed to finish the scan without triggering the flashy Blue Lotus, but things were getting dicey. Bingo. A bright window flashed. Analysis 100%. New text scrolled across. Death Eater analysis complete. Shikigami Eater acquired. The active effect was insane. Make physical contact and the beast is yours. He could literally hijack an opponent's summon. Itsuki scanned the results and smirked internally. Since the analysis finished stealthily, he could toggle the Blue Lotus visuals off. More notifications flooded in. Shikigami Eater level 2 unlocked. All stats boosted by 20. Then came the fine print. Because Overlimit fired off incompletely, the full heal and debuff cleanse failed. Still, his stats screen lit up. Attack agility, defense magic, all jumped from 290 to 310. His total power level surged from 1060 to a whopping 1240. Itsuki realized skipping the full Lotus transformation had a cost no auto recovery. But since he'd fully healed in the last phase, he was still sitting pretty. He could brawl at near max capacity. Suddenly, Death roared, charging in for another bite. As the beast closed the distance, Itsuki had a lightbulb moment. This new skill let him Grand Theft Auto other people's monsters. He stared at the mana, pooling in his palms, cool as a cucumber. If that's the game, he knew exactly how to play. Blue aura flared around him as he raised a hand. With pure focus, he slapped his hand right on Death's skull. Time to take Charles's puppy for a walk. A storm of blue petals exploded. The energy swirled around, Death ripping it from Charles's control. In a blur of motion, Itsuki delivered a devastating kick, launching the beast across the battlefield like a football. The monster crash-landed right behind Charles. The villain's eyes went wide with pure terror. He glared at the heap of fur and snarled, "You useless mutt. I wasted all that experience feeding you for this," Charles screamed, squeezing the injured Choa even harder in his rage. "Move and I snap her neck," he shrieked. Choa, looking like she went 10 rounds with a truck, forced her eyes open. Voice trembling, she whispered, "Don't worry about me." But Itsuki wasn't having it. Slowly, he raised both hands in the air. "Don't touch her," he commanded. Charles's lips curled into a twisted grin. "See, if you'd just been a good little boy from the start, she wouldn't be bleeding out right now." Itsuki iced Charles with a glare, demanding a reason for the bullseye on his back. He hadn't done a thing to deserve this kind of heat. Charles just scoffed, accusing him of playing dumb to fish for intel. "Doesn't matter," Charles sneered. You're about to meet him anyway. He dropped the bomb. Kinoshita Reiji was livid. That a nobody like Itsuki crashed a North District 4th stage uninvited. I'm Charles the Hound, he grinned, flexing his status. Reiji's personal headhunter. Hearing that name, Itsuki muttered he needed a face-to-face with the boss. To clear the air. Charles laughed darkly. Oh, you'll see him, but only after I break every bone in your body. He announced that death would take his legs next. The ultimatum was clear if Itsuki wanted Choha breathing. His ice magic was off limits. Charles pointed a trembling finger at him and barked the order tear his legs off. Death. Itsuki didn't flinch. His eyes went cold, void of fear, but filled with steel. He stared down the beast. Prove you're worthy of being my Shikigami. The air shifted. Instead of lunging at Itsuki, death whipped around, sinking its fangs into its own master. Seizing the chaos, Itsuki moved like a phantom, materializing behind Choha. A blur of blue sparks erupted as he caught her gently sweeping her out of the kill zone before she hit the ground. Charles screamed, eyes popping as sweat poured down his face. Why, I'm your master, he shrieked at the traitorous beast. But the monster stood loyally beside Itsuki, eyes glowing crimson. It growled low as Itsuki gave a nod of approval. Good work. Cradling the wounded, Choha Itsuki let his aura flare a terrifying blue energy. His voice dropped to absolute zero. Every ounce of pain she felt, I'm returning it 10 times over. No, make that 100. He warned Charles he'd regret ever touching them. The hound scrambled back, wailing like a child, completely broken. It was just orders Reiji made me, he stammered, desperate to cut a deal. We can team up. I'll bait Reiji out for you. Itsuki's eyes flashed red. He looked down at the worm. Not a bad proposal. Charles saw his chance. His panic morphed into a twisted grin. Gotcha, he muttered, spotting the opening. He whipped a hidden blade at Itsuki, screaming, die. The weapon streaked forward in a blinding flash. But Itsuki barely moved. He sidestepped the blade with bored precision. I don't need help to kill, he murmured. Kinoshita Reiji is mine. Beside him, Death waited, red eyes burning with anticipation. Give him the Choha treatment, Itsuki commanded. Death's jaws unhinged, exposing a nightmare of fangs. Charles froze blood, running cold. Sweat drenched him as he squealed for mercy. My hand slipped. I swear I'm sorry. He shook violently, begging for a redo. Itsuki remained stone-faced, holding Choha tight. He looked at the beast. It's feeding time. Death lunged. Charles stumbled back, sobbing hysterically. I fed you. Do you know who I am? He howled, trying to reason with a monster. His voice cracked. But logic doesn't work on hunger. The jaws snapped shut. Rows of teeth tore through flesh. Charles was gone. A short distance away, Itsuki adjusted his grip on the injured Choha. He wasn't alone. I've felt eyes on me since I left the stage, he called out to the empty air. He turned sharply. Stop hiding. Come on out. The tall grass rustled. A figure stepped into the light, movements hesitant. It was a blond guy in a hood, scratching the back of his head like he'd been caught stealing cookies. Busted, he chuckled softly. Itsuki didn't smile. Darkness flared behind him as he grilled the stranger. His eyes glowed. You with the corpse over there, the blonde panicked, waving his hands frantically. Whoa, no, not an enemy. Just listen, Itsuki scoffed. Fine, make it quick. Behind them, the crunching sounds of death finishing its meal echoed in the silence. Finish up and follow me, Itsuki ordered the beast. The blonde watched, jaw dropped. A savage monster like that, obeying without question. This guy, he might be the one. Maybe he could actually help. The stranger rushed forward, excitement replacing fear. I'm Iberia. That fight was insane. Scary, but insane. You're the guy who dropped Ogata Kero, right? Itsuki kept walking face neutral. Tenma Itsuki, he replied. He kept his hold on the unconscious, Choha steady. Iberia scrambled to keep up, grinning awkwardly beside him. Desperate, he begged Itsuki to help him out, promising a fat payout cash, karma stones, or even a high-tier weapon. Itsuki didn't even flinch, just kept marching forward with the wounded Choha, while Iberia watched him walk away, sweat beading on his forehead. He couldn't wrap his head around the silence. His old man always preached that anyone would jump at the chance to help if the price was right. Now he was starting to think that was total nonsense, until a memory sparked his dad hammering steel in front of a roaring furnace. His father's voice echoed in his mind, explaining that true compensation requires reading the room. It's all about context, like how a simple cup of water is worth more than a chest of gold to a man dying of thirst in the desert. To a man seeking vengeance, you offer a blade. To the wounded, you offer a cure. That his father insisted was the only payment that mattered. Back in reality, the realization hit Iberia like a truck. He clenched his fist, adrenaline spiking as he finally cracked the code and screamed out to the retreating figure. He shouted that Itsuki was on foot and dragging a casualty. There was no way he could move fast enough. The nearest ER was dozens of kilometers out, and at that snail's pace, the woman in his arms would be dead before they even saw the city lights. Iberia frantically dug into his inventory and flashed a glowing scroll, yelling that he was sitting on high-level healing items. Itsuki didn't stop, so Iberia played his ace, screaming at the top of his lungs that he could save her life. That froze him. Itsuki stopped dead slowly, turning his head to ask if he was for real, while Iberia admitted he couldn't fix her 100% instantly, but he could keep her from dying. Moments later, they were both kneeling beside the unconscious Choha. Itsuki asked if the magic would work through her gear, but Iberia told him this wasn't some drugstore first aid kit. He wound the glowing fabric around her, dropping the lore that this was a rare karma tool woven from bandages of the Shadow Tribe and infused with bark from the Kodama tribe. Itsuki stared at him, repeating the weird terminology. When asked what a karma tool was, Iberia sized him up, realizing this guy must be a freshly awakened rookie. He figured it made sense. Itsuki was clueless, explaining that modern tech is garbage against disaster beasts. Firearms are basically toys to those monsters, making guns totally useless in a real fight. That's where crafters come in, forging special anti-beast gear called karma tools out of minerals and actual monster parts. He broke it down, explaining that loot is split into 4 tiers based on the crafter's skills and the materials used. The hierarchy was simple: normal, rare, epic, and unique. To make it stick, he used a longsword as an example. Normal karma tools are basically standard weapons, but they actually have the ability to cut through disaster beasts and awakened beings. That's just a basic longsword. But the next tier up is the Ocean Sword Rare rank. That bad boy buffs agility and magic. Rare tools are all about boosting the user's base stats. Third is the epic tier, like the Blood Sword, which jacks up attack power and has a passive lifesteal effect. It heats up the blade and nukes the enemy's regeneration by half. Epic gear gives you stats, plus special abilities. Iberia was on a roll, finally getting to the god tier loot, the final rank. The unique rank like the Holy Sword. Massive attack and agility buffs, plus a broken effect that lets the user tap into infinite sealed magic. Unlimited mana cheat code. Iberia said every crafter dreams of forging a single, unique karma tool. We're talking weapons with insane stat multipliers and one-of-a-kind game-breaking effects. He explained that crafters usually have 0 combat skills and are super rare, but since they're the only ones who can make this gear, every awakened treats them like royalty. Itsuki asked if Iberia's dad was a crafter, and Iberia smirked, saying his pops wasn't just some guy. He dropped the bomb that most crafters go their whole lives without sniffing a unique creation. Across all 5 continents, only 10 legends have ever reached that level. Then he puffed out his chest, bragging that 3 of those 10 unique items were forged by his old man. That's why they call him the Crafter King of the Northern Continent. Iberia was grinning ear to ear, waiting for the applause. But when he looked over, Itsuki wasn't even paying attention, which made Iberia snap. He yelled, asking if the guy was even listening, complaining that he was dropping premium knowledge here, while Itsuki was being totally disrespectful. He shouted at him to focus, but got the silent treatment again. Itsuki was too busy inspecting the crossbow in his hands, muttering that this was the same weapon Charles had been using. Iberia stood there, completely shook, unable to believe this guy heard the biggest flex about his dad and didn't even care. The guy grumbled, probably expecting an ego stroke, muttering that any average awakened would be kissing his boots by now. But Itsuki, he completely ignored him, eyes glued to the weapon in his hands. His gears were turning. This gear was a total game changer. It meant he wouldn't have to rely on the clear orb nearly as much, and he could keep his true power level on the down low. Iberia caught him staring and dropped the lore. That's not just a bowman. That's a rare karma tool. Itsuki raised an eyebrow. Great, but we're out of arrows. Kind of useless, right? Iberia shook his head, looking like he was talking to a total newbie. Projectile karma tools don't need standard quivers, he explained. You can feed it literally any junk ammo, and it converts it instantly. So you're never running dry. Right on cue, a holographic system window popped up Hunter's crossbow. Rank rare, agility plus 50. Suddenly, poof, the weapon dissolved into thin air. Itsuki blinked, totally thrown off. Where'd it go? Iberia grinned. Relax. That's the karma tool perk. The second its soul binds with the owner, it goes into subspace storage. Call for it and it's there. Itsuki nodded, impressed. Now that is clutch. He thanked Iberia for patching him up. I owe you one. Hit me up if you need a hand. But first, I've got a score to settle. I need to hunt down Kinoshita Reiji. Iberia froze. His eyes went wide. Whoa, hold up. I thought my ears were playing tricks on me before. You've got a death wish, dude. Taking on Reiji in North District 4, that's his turf. Itsuki didn't even flinch. He just shot him a cold look. You gonna tell me to quit too? If you're gunning for Reiji, Iberia said, then we've got the same target. Itsuki paused, scanning him. He piss you off too. It's not personal beef, Iberia clarified. I need a partner. The Salvation League National Tournament prelims drop in 48 hours. The prelims. A memory clicked. Itsuki remembered Choha mentioning this. Only the top 10 make the cut. That explained why he'd been grinding stages non-stop like a maniac lately. Okay, Itsuki asked, but what's Reiji got to do with a tournament? Iberia broke it down. The prelims are region-locked. For the northern continent, everything goes down in North District 4. Reiji's the administrator's kid. He's desperate to qualify. His big brother's already a savior. So if Reiji flops and misses the top 10, massive disgrace for the family. The puzzle pieces finally fit for Itsuki. That's why Reiji locked down every dungeon in the district, power leveling at everyone else's expense. Itsuki eyed Iberia suspiciously. So why team up with me? You've been the one saving my skin this whole time. Iberia puffed out his chest, voice booming with confidence. Because you're a beast, dude, I've seen you fight. If we squad up, we crush those prelims guaranteed. Why the rush, though? Itsuki pressed. You're young. You've got years to try again. Why obsess over this year? Iberia's smile faded. His hand curled into a tight fist, knuckles white. I have to, he whispered. His mind drifted back. Way back to his childhood. He saw himself as a kid watching his dad craft karma tools. He used to sit there, eyes wide and sparkling. Every weapon was a masterpiece. Absolute perfection. He worshipped the ground his father walked on. That's when the dream started. He wanted to awaken. He pictured himself on the front line slaying disaster beasts, wielding the gear his dad built. Fast forward to a month ago, he finally awakened, hyped out of his mind. He begged his dad for a weapon. Shut down. Cold. Too early, his dad said. My tools are for saviors, not rookies. Iberia didn't quit. He pestered him until his dad finally caved with one condition. Pass this year's preliminaries. And I'll make you one. Iberia's grip tightened, eyes burning with fire. That's why. I have to win. Failure isn't an option. Itsuki stayed chill. Your dad's a legend, though. You could hire anyone. Why scrape the barrel for a level 0 like me? Iberia looked down at his feet. He saw that coming, Iberia muttered. Before I left, he dropped the hammer. Pass with your own skills. If I use his name to recruit carries, no weapon. Deal's off. Itsuki let out a low whistle. Old man runs a tight ship. And it gets worse, Iberia added. My intel says the talent pool is dry. Kinoshita bought out the heavy hitters. Everyone left is either a lone wolf who hates people or already locked into a squad. I was screwed. Suddenly, Iberia grabbed Itsuki's hand, practically vibrating. Until 48 hours ago. Rumor hit the streets. Someone dropped Ogata Kiro, one of the 4 pillars, and shattered the stage records. I've been tracking that ghost. And it led me straight to you. Itsuki pried his hand free, dusting it off. Alright, fine. I'm in. But Choha needs a hospital first. Priority 1. Iberia beamed already, stepping forward. Say less, I'm coming with. From this second on, they were officially a package deal. Iberia immediately started brainstorming a team name, tossing out mashups of Tenma, Itsuki and Iberia. He pitched Iba-10 but instantly trash-canned it, realizing it sounded more like a discount convenience store than a power duo. He cycled through Ibetsu Tenmaria and Tenibe, spiraling through terrible ideas. Meanwhile, Itsuki was physically lugging the unconscious Choha in his arms. Looking completely drained, Itsuki thought, I'm in deep trouble. This guy, Iberia, somehow yapped even more than Rikuru. That train of thought made Itsuki's mind drift to Rikuru and Saya. He wondered how his squad was holding up back home, and if they were hitting the prelims now, that they'd both awakened. Suddenly, a light bulb went off over Iberia's head. He announced that since both their names rocked the letter I, they should brand themselves as Double I. Miles away, right as Itsuki thought of him, Rikuru let out a massive sneeze mid-training. Saya shot him a look, asking if he'd caught a bug. Rikuru scratched his head. Nah, someone's definitely talking smack about me. Probably Itsuki. Saya's gaze dropped to the floor, her voice getting quiet as she asked how long it had been since the attack. She admitted she never thought they'd be ghosting each other for this long, wondering aloud if Itsuki was actually okay. Rikuru gave her a weird look. If you're that thirsty for updates, you should have just visited him after we cleared those disaster beasts. Saya's face turned tomato red, and she dipped her head in pure cringe. A split second later, she shoved her palms forward and blasted a hydro cannon, launching Rikuru backward while he screamed in shock. Cheap shot. That's totally unfair, he yelled, but Saya clapped back instantly. Fair or not, this is sparring. You're the one who got caught lacking. Suddenly, a shadow loomed behind them. It was their teacher. Both students snapped to attention, terrified. Sensei Rikuru yelped. The teacher didn't hold back, grilling them about the national tournament. Preliminaries kicking off in 48 hours. Is this really the time to be goofing off? Saya's eyes actually sparkled at the mention of the tourney. She confessed she was hyped to finally throw hands with other awakened fighters since farming Rikuru for XP was getting boring. A holographic interface popped up beside her, displaying her stats as an awakened water elementalist. Rikuru checked his own status window too. He mentioned he'd never stepped foot in North District 4, but heard the town was loaded. He was dying to see it for himself. Elsewhere, a metal briefcase clicked open, revealing 3 razor-sharp crystal stones. It was Kinoshita. He stared at the crystals, frowning with impatience. Where's the hound? He grumbled. It's not like him to be late. The bodyguard behind him nervously asked if something went sideways. Kinoshita's face went pitch black. Those useless incompetence fools failed again, he muttered. His glasses flashed red with a system notification, Karma Stone, used, followed by, experience gained. The bodyguard hesitated, asking if they should send a search party. Kinoshita looked ready to snap. Forget that loser. The national tournament prelims were the only thing that mattered right now. He whispered to himself that if he flopped here, his father would throw him back in the confinement room without a second thought. Shaking it off, he demanded an update on the task he gave the bodyguard. The bodyguard read out the numbers. Out of the 3,113 participants in the northern continent, I've secured 87 cooperators, all level 5 or higher, exactly as requested. Hearing the stats, Kinoshita smirked. Good work. You're the only one who isn't useless around here. He reached for another glowing stone. That's the last Karma Stone, sir, the bodyguard warned. Light engulfed Kinoshita as he shattered it. The XP flowed in, triggering a level up. Electricity crackled violently around Kinoshita as raw power surged from his body. Enough, he declared. I'll use this voltage to crush the peasants. His status screen flickered into view. Kinoshita Raiji level 12. Class Lightning Elementalist Gift Grade 2. Attack 135. Defense 130. Agility 168. Magic 170. Total combat power 603. A few hours later, a brilliant blue teleportation pillar materialized outside the hospital. Itsuki stood calm before it, bowing his head. I'm sorry, Sensei. I let Choha get hurt bad. His teacher, Commander Nento, stepped out of the portal. What's the play, kid? He asked, voice low. I can erase Kinoshita right now if you want. Itsuki looked up, eyes cold and steady. No. Leave Kinoshita to me. The teacher nodded, respecting the call. All right. Break down exactly what went down. Nearby, Iberia watched, jaw on the floor. He just realized the Northern Continent's commander-in-chief was actually Itsuki's mentor. Suddenly, it made total sense why Itsuki didn't even blink when he heard who Iberia's dad was. Iberia thought Izumi Nento is a total enigma. He seriously debated asking for an autograph right then and there. Later inside the hospital room, Itsuki laid out the entire story without missing a beat, telling his teacher that this specific event was the reason he decided to sign up for the Salvation League. National Tournament Preliminaries. The teacher nodded, cutting the small talk and pivoting straight to Choha. How are you holding up? Choha flashed a radiant smile, zero signs of fatigue. Better than new, she chirped, crediting Tamajo's treatment, while a neon green butterfly fluttered around her fingers like a magical pet. She didn't stop there. Iberia's ultra-rare Karma tool did the heavy lifting too. At the mention of that gear, Izumi Nento's head snapped toward Iberia. Wait, Izumi narrowed his eyes. You have the Kodama bandage, that's Aiden's masterpiece, which means you have to be his son. Iberia blinked, stunned. His internal monologue kicked into overdrive. This guy knows about Karma tools. He even knows my dad. Iberia straightened his spine. Okay, showtime. Gotta act like the dignified heir to the Crafter King. He thumbed his chest, striking a heroic pose, and roared, Behold, I am Aiden's father. Dead silence. You could hear a pin drop in the room. Itsuki sighed, breaking the cringe. Bro, you got that backwards. Iberia deflated instantly, burying his tomato-red face in his hands. Right, His voice cracked. Aiden is my father. My bad. Commander Nento cleared his throat loudly. Desperate to save the vibe, Nento spoke up. Regardless, thank you. You saved my daughter's life. After the prelims, I'd like to pay Aiden a visit with Tenma, Nento continued. But right now, you two need to lock in. Tournament prep starts now. Get moving, he ordered, his tone softening just a fraction. Choha and I will be in the stands tomorrow to watch you guys dominate. Iberia threw a fist into the air, hype levels restored. Say less, Commander. You can chill. We're breezing through these prelims, guaranteed. Beside him, Itsuki gave a silent, stoic nod. As the boys walked off, Choha leaned in. You know, Dad, you've really got a soft spot for Tenma. It triggered a memory for her back when he met with Jin. He used to drag her along to every single meeting. Commander Nento's expression turned serious. Listen. Because of his trauma, whenever Itsuki fights disaster beasts, he triggers a self-destruct mode. It's a death wish. But that impulse, Nento looked at her. It only fades when he has someone precious nearby, someone he needs to keep safe. He placed a hand on her shoulder. That is exactly why I put you by his side. The realization hit Choha like a truck. Her father didn't just want them to be buddies. He wanted her to be his anchor, his vulnerability, the one person he couldn't afford to lose. Choha whispered the words to herself. Am I really the one Tenma wants to protect? As she wrestled with her doubts, the commander stood up, casting a long shadow. Choha, he dropped the bomb. The beast attack at Itsuki's school. That wasn't random. It was a planned hit. Choha gasped, her eyes going wide. Nento didn't let up. We have traitors feeding the disaster beasts. It's getting worse. Commanders across other continents are getting hit with the same coordinated strikes. He turned to the massive window, staring into the dark. Silhouetted against the night sky, he looked grim. Humanity is staring into a pitch-black abyss right now. Then, his voice dropped to a whisper. But Itsuki, his tone rang with sudden power. He's the spark. He's going to be the light that saves us all. Cut to the national tournament preliminary venue North District 4. A massive circular arena sat like a coliseum in the middle of a desolate wasteland. Inside, it was a mosh pit. Itsuki scanned the sea of heads. Crowds way bigger than I thought. It's the Nento effect, Iberia explained. Word got out, the commander is watching, so a bunch of people who were going to skip decided to show up. The headcount had skyrocketed from 3,000 to nearly 5,000 hungry competitors. On the sidelines, Raiji was seething. Izumi Nento, he spat. He just flooded the zone with variables. This complicates everything. His lackey tried to talk him down. Relax, boss. These last-minute entries are total NPCs. They don't even have teams. We still have the numbers, the lackey smirked. I told our recruits to tie red ribbons on their right arms. Instant friend or foe identification. Across the arena, Rakuru and his squad clocked the splash of red in the crowd. Yo, Rakuru pointed. Are red ribbons the new drip? Should we grab some too? Saya ignored the fashion critique, scanning the stands. If Commander Nento is here, maybe Itsuki is actually going to show up. Suddenly, the host Shin Shihara Soryu took center stage, commanding the room. Listen up, he boomed. Rules briefing before the chaos starts. The venue is split into 2 zones, he gestured. The external area and the internal area. Stage 1. You all start at 4 different compass points in the outer ring. A giant holographic map lit up the air, highlighting the massive outer ring and the bullseye center labeled Internal Area. Soryu grinned. First challenge is a speed run. Get your ass to the internal area. Fast. The second you cross that line into the inner zone, your bracelet logs your rank automatically. But here's the catch. Only the first 50 people make the cut. Everyone else goes home. A hologram of the wristband popped up, demonstrating the ranking system. Panic and adrenaline instantly surged through the crowd. Rikuru flexed his arm, eyeing the wrist tech. Whoa, this bracelet's got some killer hidden features. Beside him, Saya shuddered. Wiping out thousands in round 1. That wasn't just tough. It was absolutely brutal. Soryu didn't waste time with the briefing. 2 karma tools per fighter. That's your limit. Squad up, go solo, play dirty, we don't care. The only thing that matters is the W. While the rules droned on Iberia, elbowed Itsuki hype building in his eyes. Yo, check 12 o'clock. He gestured toward Team Reiji, as the announcer's voice boomed about the rankings and the chaotic reveal of Stage 2. Iberia zeroed in on the guy surrounded by lackeys. That's him, Kinoshita Reiji. Up ahead, Kinoshita was already barking orders, telling his recruits to block anyone trying to pass him. Classic villain move. Those guys definitely bought and paid for, Iberia whispered, analyzing the formation like a hawk. We need to blitz the internal zone as soon as possible. My play is to hit them with a surprise ambush. Moment Kinoshita drops his guard inside. But the strategy session got cut short. Iberia froze jaw, hitting the floor. Itsuki was already walking straight toward the boss. Bro, did you hear a single word? I said. A goon spotted Itsuki marching in. Who's this random? Another thug tensed up. Watch it. He's got no red ribbon. Suddenly, the host's voice thundered from the speakers high above. Stage 1, start. The host scanned the sea of students, a smirk playing on his lips. Love seeing this fresh meat begging to join the Salvation League. Gives me hope. Then a cold voice cut in. Quantity means nothing without quality. A black-haired man stepped into the light. Back in our day, we had plenty of fighters clearing level 15. Boom. A blue holographic screen popped up. Name Heitan Akira. Stats redacted. But Instructor Soryu wasn't having the nostalgia trip. Check your memory, Heitan. Only 2 people hit that level in your year. You were level 18. And Tewajin was a monster at level 21. Heitan sighed, lost in the memory. It's a snooze fest without rookies like Tewajin around. Hoping we spot a diamond in this rough, Soryu shook his head. Geniuses don't just grow on trees. Heitan stepped up, eyes locking on Commander Nento. So, about that rumor floating around. Some kid from the northern continent soloed a level 8 skeleton right after awakening and became your personal student. Soryu's eyes went wide. That's insane. Crushing level 8s on day 1. Commander Nento stood there, wreathed in dark flickering flames. It's true, Nento said, voice dead calm. Heitan grinned. Is the kid here right now? Soryu's mind raced. If this was Nento's second disciple after Tewajin, the talent must be god tier. Soryu frantically swiped through the participant roster. Who is it? First profile up, Harino Rukuru. Level 10, Metal Elementalist. Grade 2 gift basic. Not him. Next slide. Kisaragi Saya. Level 11, Water User. Grade 1 gift. Soryu frowned. She's support class. Not our guy. Then Hanyuka popped up. Wood Elementalist. Level 16. Whoa, that level is absurd. Gotta be her. He glanced at Nento for confirmation. Nento said nothing. Stone cold silence. Soryu realized he was dead wrong. Even with Yuka topping the charts, Heitan pointed at the screen, laughing. Yo, look at this. We've actually got a level 0 in the mix. Soryu shrugged it off. There's always one idiot every year who joins for the clout. They usually get wrecked and quit. Meanwhile, Kinoshida's squad erupted in laughter. He pointed a finger straight at Itsuki. No way. A freaking level 0, Kinoshita howled. His team lost it. Did you get lost on the way to kindergarten? Itsuki didn't say a word. He just stepped up and raised his hand. The sunlight glinted off Charles's mechanical gauntlet. Kinoshida's laughter died instantly. He choked. He knew that glove. It belonged to Charles. Pure terror washed over his face. Who the hell are you? Itsuki's gaze was ice cold. You're the one who's been hunting me down, right? Kinoshita snapped. Denial. Rage. Impossible, he screamed. There is no way. A level 0 folded Ogawa. Yeah, right. Kinoshita refused to buy it, convinced this was just some psychological warfare sent to rattle his cage. He jabbed a finger forward, screaming, for his squad to rush them. The goons flanking him flashed cocky grins, stepping up with swagger. They promised to handle this light work and make Itsuki wish he'd never started this beef, while Kinoshida's lackeys stayed behind to wall off Itsuki with a crackling barrier of purple lightning. Kinoshita sprinted toward the center, shouting he had 0 seconds to waste on trash like Itsuki. With the boss gone, the remaining thugs formed a tight circle around Itsuki, muscles tense and ready to pounce. High up in the watchtower, Instructor Hayden took in the whole scene. He clocked the stats 3 level 6 fighters and 2 level 7s on the field, so the outcome was basically predetermined. He figured if Itsuki dropped to his knees and begged right now, he might just keep breathing. Down on the battlefield, Ibera was sweating bullets, running the combat math in his head. He figured he could probably clutch a win against one opponent, but even with Itsuki's raw power taking on 4 enemies at once, that's a suicide run. Ibara realized he had no choice but to trigger that one forbidden technique. Mind made up, he crept forward, hand drifting toward the gear at his hip. Suddenly, one of Kinoshida's crew, a redhead with a nasty attitude, smirked at Itsuki. He scoffed, saying he expected a real boss fight, but all they got was some level 0 garbage. Hearing the disrespect, Itsuki tilted his head down, shadows veiling his eyes, and told the guy in his face to get lost. The redhead's eyes went wide. He clearly wasn't used to such blunt disrespect. He froze for a heartbeat before exploding into manic laughter. Throwing his head back, he roasted Itsuki's gutsy vibe. But up in the tower, Instructor Hayden was actually grinning. He dug the kid's swagger. He even muttered he'd jump in later to save Itsuki's skin when things inevitably went south. Then the redhead leaned in close, wearing a twisted psycho grin. He taunted Itsuki, asking to crack his skull open and take a peek inside. Itsuki didn't waste breath on a reply. Instead, the next second, he snapped, his fist, connected with the redhead's face like a freight train exploding in a spray of blood and shattered teeth. As the guy flew backward, wailing in agony, Itsuki stood there, voice ice cold, repeating that he'd already told him to move. Instructor Hayden's jaw hit the floor. That opponent was a whole 7 levels above Itsuki, yet the kid had just one shot at him. He couldn't wrap his head around the fact that Itsuki had instantly flatlined the redhead.